Chapter 187. When Lin Yuan's voice fell, the air froze a little. King Kong was silent for a moment, then he suddenly lowered his voice and said, "You're too King realistic." Regardless of whether it was the accountability of the Seven Dynasties or the purgatory creature that was chasing after them, it did not seem to be a problem for the Black Snake. It was as if this fellow always had two plans before doing anything. One was to take a gamble, and the other was to sacrifice his fellow Taoist but not himself. King Kong, who had a deep understanding of the Black Snake's cunning, was speechless for a while. He sincerely hoped that this would be the last time he cooperated with the Black Snake. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know when he would be betrayed by the Black Snake. Bai Lu, who was acting as the military governor, heard the footsteps behind him and turned his head smartly. He saw Lin Yuan and King Kong rushing over and couldn't help but smile and say, "Aren't you too desperate? We just finished dealing with the Lu family, and you're here. What the F***ck is that thing?" Although Fong Tian, who was more than 5 meters tall, was nothing in front of the monster's true body, but in this case, it was obviously not an insignificant thing. Before Bai Lu finished his words, he saw the little giant who was waving the black-red halberd and crushing everything along the way. His face suddenly became interesting. These two things, could it be that they were being hunted down? Bai Lu Beast King, quickly, give me another set of buff skills that you gave me before. Otherwise, none of us can defeat the guy behind us. Lin Yuan shouted loudly as he ran. Bai Lu's face changed slightly. Although he didn't fight with Fong Tian, at this moment, he still felt Fong Tian's destructive aura. After a moment of silence, Bai Lu roared with a distorted face, "Are you King kidding me? Do you think that after I bless so many monsters, I still have the spare energy to give you another buff? Then you're on your own." What responded to Bai Lu was Lin Yuan's very indifferent, "Oh," and King Kong's ridicule. The three Beast Kings passed by each other at this moment, but Lin Yuan and King Kong didn't have the slightest intention to stop at this moment. Instead, they continued to run forward. Holy shit! As soon as Bai Lu opened his mouth, he saw an intelligence state level 6 beastkin that tried to stop Fong Tian being torn apart. He immediately cursed. Without even thinking for a moment, he followed behind Lin Yuan and Jin Gang. He didn't even look at the city lord's mansion that was in full swing. He tore apart a level 6 wisdom insight demonic beast in one move. How was he supposed to fight? Outside the city lord's residence. Hondan Crane, who was fighting on the front line, glanced back in confusion and saw White Deer, King Kong, and Black Snake moving further and further away. He couldn't help but make a confused sound. It was disturbed by the rumbling noises behind it and the shrieks of the demonic beasts. When it turned around, it was still a little impatient. After all, the mountain-blocking city had been completely destroyed. Even if there were still humans left, they were currently hiding in some slightly safer buildings, praying that they would not be discovered by the demonic beasts. However, every moment, there would be humans being dragged out from their hiding places and eaten by the demonic beasts. Even if there were still humans who could fight, they were either guarding some large-scale hiding places or organizing people to break out of the encirclement. It was impossible for there to be people who didn't care about their lives and come to the city lord's mansion to challenge the main force of the monster horde. That is, Hondan Crane was only confused for a moment. Then, it felt everything in front of it turning into a black-red color. Immediately, it was thrown high up in the air. At this moment, it even felt that its body was lighter than when it spread its wings to fly. In the process of its rotation, it already saw itself falling limp to the ground after losing its head, and then its body was wrapped in a black-red flame. In one round, Hondan Crane King, dead. Seeing this scene, Bai Lu, King Kong, and Lin Yuan all shuddered at the same time. As time passed, the degree of Sky Demon Fong Tian's transformation became more and more serious. His strength also became stronger and stronger. If he had this kind of strength at the beginning, whether it was Lin Yuan or King Kong, they would have already been devoured by the purgatory fire and turned into ashes. "No, why are you all following me?" Lin Yuan shouted angrily. With the three of them running together, to the demonized Fong Tian, wasn't it like an extremely large light bulb? If Fong Tian chased after them later, none of them would be able to escape. King Kong rolled his eyes and said angrily, "What nonsense are you talking about? This road is the main road back to the Hengduan mountain range. If we don't run in this direction, where should we run to? Don't tell me we're still running towards the human city?" "Hey!" Bai Lu suddenly screamed and said in a low voice, "Don't quarrel, don't quarrel. Did you guys notice? That guy doesn't seem to have the intention to chase after us. He's going to the city lord's mansion." King Kong and Lin Yuan, who were glaring at each other, turned their heads at the same time. They saw the demonized Fong Tian carrying the halberd and killing a bloody path in the beast tide. He was running towards the city lord's mansion. They both breathed a sigh of relief. Just like the scarlet eye mandarin that transformed into the purgatory bird, the purgatory beasts didn't have any wisdom and wouldn't consider their feelings before they fell. The only thing that could attract them was something that could make them stronger. Obviously, the three beast kings added together weren't as important as the thing in the city lord's mansion to Fong Tian. At this moment, the beast tides seemed to be scared out of their wits by Fong Tian. They scattered like birds and beasts. There were even a few guys who panicked and ran towards the direction of other human cities. However, there were more beasts that followed closely behind the three of them and rushed towards the Hengduan mountain range. The three beast kings didn't deliberately stop those guys who ran away. After all, the beasts in the Hengduan mountain range weren't united. As long as it wasn't a large-scale beast tide and only a few beasts escaped from the Hengduan mountain range, the demon slayers in the nearby cities would be happy to see it. The seven dynasties wouldn't hold them accountable for it. Besides, what did the destruction of Zhongshan City have to do with the beasts? Who could prove that Zhongshan City was destroyed in the hands of the beasts? It was estimated that when the human armies in the nearby cities rushed over to provide support, they would only see the powerful Fong Tian. Under the hands of this purgatory demon, not even a corpse would be left in Zhongshan City. The entire city would be turned into a blazing purgatory on earth. The feeling of having someone to take the blame for the crime after the deed was done seemed pretty good. It would be even better if Fong Tian didn't chase after the three of them. Speaking of which, what about the territories of those beast kings that died in the battle? Should we split them? As they ran, the danger gradually disappeared. Bai Lu asked faintly, "What's the matter?" Chapter 188. When Bai Lu's voice fell, both Lin Yuan and Jin Gang went silent. There were more than 20 beast kings that came out of the Hengduan mountain range, including the ones that joined later, but there were only 3 of them on the way back. Even the cold pool crane, who had the highest cultivation, fell in the hands of Fong Tian, and the loss of beasts of various realms was even more uncountable. It could even be said that there were no more beasts with intelligence in many territories. Naturally, it was impossible for a new beast king to appear. "What does it have to do with me?" Lin Yuan raised his eyelids and replied absent-mindedly. With the Stoneclaw Forest and Scarlet Flame Swamp added together, his territory was already big enough. Even if the Scarlet Flame Swamp was burning with purgatory fire and there weren't many places for beasts to live, it was impossible for the purgatory fire to burn for 100 years. Who knew what kind of terrifying things would be born from the purgatory fire after 100 years? The Beast King Court would send high-level beasts to deal with the purgatory fire in the Scarlet Flame Swamp sooner or later, and it wouldn't be long. Moreover, although most of the Beast King's territories were close to Lin Yuan, they weren't bordering. The only bordering territory was the Cold Pool Crane's territory. It was just that the beasts in the Cold Pool Crane's territory were all in intelligence. If they didn't all die in the war, they would naturally choose a new Beast King. If they all died in the war, it would just be an empty space. At this moment, the Stoneclaw Forest hadn't reached saturation. If they occupied an empty space, their territory would be a lot bigger, but the beasts under them would be more scattered. If any special situation happened, Lin Yuan would definitely have a hard time defending his territory. Things seemed to have gone out of hand. Jin Gang suddenly frowned and said in a deep voice, "Our vitality is greatly damaged now. With so many territories, we definitely can't take it all. At that time, the nearby Beast Kings will definitely want to come and get a share of the soup. Even those guys in the depths of the Hengduan mountain range won't let go of such a big piece of fat meat. As his voice fell, Lin Yuan looked at Jin Gang in a higher light. While Bai Lu was still thinking about how to divide the territory, King Kong already knew that the nearby beast kings would take the opportunity to invade. It was impossible to hide such a big matter from the higher-ups. After all, the territory of more than 20 beast kings was not a small territory. With so many demonic beasts dying in battle, the ecological chain of the entire Hengduan mountain range would be affected. It might even give the Shenwu dynasty an opportunity to invade the Hengduan mountain range. At that time, they might even have to give up a large part of the demonic beast forest. Although this unforeseen event would not affect Lin Yuan, after all, even if the nearby beast kings had nothing better to do, they would definitely not fight for a territory that was constantly being attacked by the inferno beasts. Even if they had many beasts under their command, they would not waste them in such a place. However, the replacement of the nearby beast kings would definitely give the Green Marsh clan an opportunity. At that time, the Green Marsh clan would arrange for some demonic beasts with tyrannical strength like the Blood Claw to become the beast kings in the vicinity. When the time came, they would join forces to deal with Lin Yuan. Let's keep this matter a secret for now and properly discuss how to deal with it. Lin Yuan slightly narrowed his eyes and coldly said, "If it really doesn't work, I will release all the 4 great clans of the Stoneclaw Forest. In any case, the Old Wolf, Zhuing, and Men all have the qualifications to become beast kings. At that time, they will still have to consider our relationship and will not target us together with the invading beast kings." And this is a good idea. Bai Lu and King Kong both nodded. They did not feel that Lin Yuan was taking the opportunity to annex the surrounding territories to strengthen himself. After all, the veteran beast kings knew that the Stoneclaw Forest's 4 great clans had been restraining each other for a long time. Lin Yuan, this black snake, was only a beast king that came out of nowhere. Other than the Shattered Stone clan under Men Du, the other 3 great clans did not have the slightest loyalty to him. The demonic beasts were planning to divide the territory. On the other hand, the humans were not so optimistic. Zhanshan City was the city closest to the Hengduan mountain range. It was also the first city to be attacked by the demonic beast tide. There were 7 other cities nearby, all of which were border cities where demon slayers ran rampant. For hours ago, they saw a wave of smoke rising from Zhanshan City. Only when they encountered an enemy that they could not deal with would these border cities light up the smoke signal and summon the nearby army to assist them. After all, the mobilization of these armies required a large sum of money. Moreover, how could they help for free? At first, although the city lords of the nearby cities were puzzled as to why Zhanshan City would light up the smoke signal since it was not the season for demonic beast tides, they followed the old rules of the Shenwu dynasty and decisively began to assemble their armies to reinforce Zhanshan City. However, only 4 hours had passed and the smoke signal in the direction of Zhanshan City had been extinguished. Once the smoke signal was lit, it would not be extinguished so easily. Otherwise, if the imperial court held it accountable, even the city lord would have his head cut off. Under such circumstances, the smoke signal would burn for 2 days and 2 nights. If it was extinguished prematurely, it meant that the city lord's mansion that lit the smoke signal had been captured by the enemy, or even razed to the ground. But how was this possible? It had only been 4 hours. Could it be that the demonic beast imperial court had turned out in full force? Otherwise, how could they destroy the defense of a city that had tens of thousands of demon slayers and a garrison army? Even the city lord's mansion that was built as the inner city was razed to the ground. However, the beast lord of the demonic beast imperial court had personally come out to fight. The smoke signal in the direction of Zhanshan City should be blood red and not ordinary black smoke. It could not be that an ordinary demonic beast tide had directly destroyed Zhanshan City, right? Could it be that the garrison army of Zhanshan City was made of paper? A middle-aged man with a mustache stood on the city wall with a solemn expression and a doubtful look in his eyes. "City Lord, we have finished assembling. We can set off at any time." The legion commander in full armor strode to the side of the middle-aged man. His right hand slammed on the armor in front of his chest, producing a dull sound of metal colliding. The city lord pondered for a moment, then lowered his voice and said, "The situation in Zhanshan City is a little strange. Bring your men and set up camp near Zhanshan City. Don't rashly inquire about the situation in Zhanshan City. Wait for the armies of the nearby cities to arrive before taking a look at the situation. After you set off, I will personally make a trip to White Horse City and inform the county governor of the situation in Zhanshan City. If things really go south, retreat first. Remember, even if the sky falls, there are still people who are tall enough to hold it up. Don't fill it with the lives of our brothers." Of course, supporting the Allies was something that must be done. However, from the looks of the situation, Zhanshan City was probably finished. As a border city, he needed to prioritize the safety of his own city and not crazily take revenge for Zhanshan City. "Yes, I understand." The Legion commander nodded and replied again. Chapter 189. 5 days later. Demonic Beast Forest, Lin Yuan's lair. Lin Yuan looked at the purple-eyed youth standing in front of him and said with a faint smile, "The Hengduan mountain range is now very hostile to humans. It's fine that you're here, but you better be careful on the road. If other demonic beasts see you, I guarantee that you won't be able to bear the consequences." At this moment, the alliance formed by the destroyed mountain-blocking city's Demon Subduing Master Association allowed the Demon Emperor Association to seize the opportunity to slaughter all the demonic beasts' territories nearby. Now, it would be polite to say that the demonic beasts near the Stoneclaw Forest were hostile to humans. It would be better to say that once the demonic beasts here discover humans, they would want to skin them alive. You still have the face to say that? Do you know how big of a mess you've left for me? The purple-eyed youth widened his eyes in disbelief. Obviously, he didn't expect this Black Snake to complain first. Although he already knew that Black Snake was going to organize the demonic beasts to attack humans, he never thought that the demonic beasts would directly destroy the entire mountain-blocking city and kill millions of people in one night. Although it was just a cold post-war statistic, every single one of these millions of people were people that others would never be able to see even if they thought about it day and night. Every human who came to the ruins of Mountain Blocking City, even if they were experienced soldiers, couldn't help but vomit. After all, that kind of scene was too unbearable for humans to bear. Broken walls, dismembered corpses, severed limbs, blazing purgatory fire, and ashes left behind after the purgatory fire devoured flesh and phase. At first glance, the ruins of Mountain Blocking City looked like a projection from a corner of purgatory. Of course, this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that although the mountain-blocking city first released the signal that pointed to the demonic beasts, the demonic beasts' flesh and blood were very nutritious. Therefore, the entire scene was cleaned up by Fong Tian. The humans who rushed over didn't even find a single demonic beast corpse. Instead, they were caught off guard by Fong Tian, who had been starving for several days. After paying the price of many lives, that demon actually managed to break out of the encirclement. It was said that the Shenwu dynasty had already dispatched a few Heaven Realm experts to search for Fong Tian's whereabouts. After all, such a powerful purgatory creature was a ticking time bomb for the entire Shenwu dynasty. This was not the worst. The worst thing was that he would have to undertake the reconstruction of Mountain Blocking City. In principle, it seemed to be similar to his expectations. However, after the purgatory demon beasts got involved, it could be said to be a different matter. Because he was not a refiner or an alchemist, he did not have the means to extract the purgatory flame. Therefore, he had no way to deal with the purgatory flame in the ruins of Mountain Blocking City. If he could not deal with it in a short time, he would have to choose another location to rebuild Mountain Blocking City. However, the choice of several areas was not to his liking. After all, those locations were all out of the sphere of influence of the Black Serpent. If the demon beasts came to attack, he was afraid that there would not even be a messenger. He still had another errand to do, and he still didn't know how to bring it up to Black Snake. "Do you have something to tell me? Why do you look like you have a lot on your mind?" Lin Yuan raised his eyelids and soaked his body in the lake water, feeling the comfortable feeling of the lake water washing his body. There's something I might need to trouble you with. After all, the investigation result from the Shenwu dynasty is that Mountain Blocking City was destroyed in the hands of Fong Tian, who had somehow degenerated into a purgatory creature. Therefore, you don't have to worry about the 7 great empires finding trouble with you through the monstrous Beast King court. However, they hope that you can take the initiative to admit to the destruction of Mountain Blocking City. After all, although the existence of purgatory creatures isn't a secret, the ones that have appeared in the eyes of the world in the past were only some purgatory demon beasts. As far as we know, this is the first time a human like Fong Tian has degenerated into a purgatory creature. Although the higher-ups haven't made a clear statement, we, the middle and lower members, have already guessed that the higher-ups definitely don't want the news of a human degenerating into a purgatory creature to spread. You have to know that the Demonic Emperor Association you've organized is already considered vile in human society, but it hasn't reached the point where the 7 great empires would kill it at all costs. However, there are some organizations that are similarly hidden in the dark, and their actions are far worse than the Demonic Emperor Association. Once such an existence appears, the 7 great empires will simultaneously send experts to eliminate them. Even so, the number of these disgusting fellows still doesn't decrease. After all, when one can obtain unparalleled power through hard work and reaping without sowing, there will always be some idiots who think that they are different from others and can withstand the erosion of the purgatory will. Therefore, these fellows will even think of ways to degenerate into a purgatory creature. The purple-eyed young man had a troubled look on his face. Although everyone knew that the destruction of Zhanshan City was inseparable from the demon beasts, with Fong Tian as the scapegoat, he had completely wiped out all the evidence that pointed to the Hengduan Mountains. Not to mention any survivors, not even a single demon beast corpse was left behind. All of them were devoured by the purgatory flames and turned into his own nourishment. After all, the demonized Fong Tian was powerful. In fact, when humans discovered this fellow, he had already stepped into the mysterious Heaven Star border realm under the nourishment of the corpses of both humans and demon beasts in Zhanshan City. The troops sent by the nearby cities to encircle and annihilate Fong Tian were instead defeated by him. However, with just a Heaven Star border purgatory creature, how could he destroy the entire Zhanshan City within 4 hours? Putting aside the fact that the demon-subduing Master Association and the garrison army in Zhanshan City were not to be trifled with, even if Zhanshan City was an empty city, as long as the defensive array was activated, it would take more than 2 to 4 hours for a Heavenly Dipper realm expert to break through. But the problem was, there was no evidence. Without evidence of the demon beasts invading human cities, the 7 dynasties had no way to make things difficult for the Demon King court. Otherwise, not only would they not gain any benefits, they might even be bitten by the Demon King court. Now, the nobles of the Shenwu dynasty were trying to confuse them by getting Black Snake, who had always been in contact with the purple-eyed youth, to take responsibility for this matter. In this way, the truth of Fong Tian degenerating into a purgatory creature would naturally be concealed. That's impossible. Even if I agree, the Demon King court won't. Lin Yuan decisively shook his head and rejected the suggestion. After all, if he admitted that the destruction of Zhanshan City was caused by him, it would be equivalent to giving the 7 dynasties an excuse to start a war against the Demon King court. This is today's 6th update, and I'm looking for the guaranteed monthly votes on the day after tomorrow. Chapter 190. The purple-eyed youth's expression looked as if he was suffering from constipation. After all, as a participant of the Black Snake plan, he knew very well that the Black Snake was involved in this matter. However, now that a scapegoat had stepped forward to take responsibility for the Black Snake, even the purple-eyed youth could not pin this matter on the Black Snake again. It was even more impossible for the Black Snake to admit what it had done. Black Snake, listen to me. The higher-ups want you to acknowledge the mountain-blocking city, not to find an opportunity to deal with you or the Hengduan mountain range. They just don't want to be used by people with ulterior motives and accidentally leak the matter of the Sky Demon's transformation. In addition, your strength is also very good, and you have the dragon bloodline in your body. There won't be people who are blind enough to find trouble with you. The purple-eyed youth paused, then lowered his voice and said, "Although the higher-ups did not personally ask me to do this, I can see that the higher-ups' intentions are urgent. Therefore, I have to take the risk of being discovered to contact you, the Beast King who is in the limelight." Although the matter of making Lin Yuan a scapegoat was not done by name, there were not many monsters who cooperated with the purple-eyed youth and the forces behind him. There were even fewer monsters who were Beast Kings. In addition, under Lin Yuan's manipulation, the entire Hengduan mountain range was hostile to humans. A mere airborne realm cultivator like him did not have the ability to cross the Hengduan mountain range. It's still impossible. Lin Yuan shook his huge snake head, and a pair of heterochromatic eyes flashed with impatience. Seeing the purple-eyed youth's face turn cold, Lin Yuan slowly said, "You know, although the Monster King court usually does not bother with a monster like me who has the dragon bloodline in his body, in name, I have nothing to do with the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. I can do whatever I want in the Hengduan mountain range, but once the entire Monster King court is involved, you should know how the Beast King will clean up the mess, right?" Although Lin Yuan rejected him again, the purple-eyed youth's eyes clearly relaxed. In this world, there was nothing that couldn't be negotiated. Lin Yuan wasn't a brainless infernal demon beast. As long as he could find a way to satisfy Lin Yuan's request, then everything would be fine. You don't have to worry about that. We just need some rumors. As long as you promise us, we'll start spreading the rumor that Mountain Blocking City was destroyed by the Black Serpent. Under the internal control of the Shenwu dynasty, the scale of this rumor will continue to expand. However, no one will be able to find any evidence. Not only did Hengduan Mountain Range not want to start a war with the Seven Dynasties, Shenwu dynasty, which had the weakest foundation among the Seven Dynasties, also didn't want to face the surviving members of the Jiao clan, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, and the Demon Beast Palace at the same time. These three powers could easily drag it into the swamp of war. Furthermore, how can we do this for free? Don't worry, if the Demon Beast Palace blames us, we'll naturally send our experts to deal with them. At most, we'll just exchange some benefits. There's nothing more important than stabilizing the chaotic situation here. The purple-eyed youth licked his lips and added while the iron was hot. Lin Yuan's eyes once again revealed a hint of interest. After all, for a long time in the future, the purple-eyed youth would be the hero and leader of the rebuilding of Mountain Blocking City. If he directly cut off all ties with this guy just because he used him once, it would make him seem a little petty. Secondly, he was afraid that he wouldn't have any peace in the future. Even if he didn't give face to the monk, he still had to give face to the Buddha. In this situation where the scapegoat had destroyed all the evidence, Lin Yuan still nodded his head and agreed to this difficult task. His pair of heterochromatic eyes flickered with a faint cold light, but he didn't immediately turn hostile. "Then, please take care of me in the future, City Lord." Lin Yuan laughed dryly and said meaningfully. The purple-eyed youth nodded his head heavily and said with a smile, "Of course, there's no conflict of interest between us. I'll be your staunchest ally." 3 days later, a rumor from the vicinity of Mountain Blocking City was spread by an unknown survivor. The thing that destroyed Mountain Blocking City wasn't the mysterious power that everyone guessed, but the black snake that had been acting restlessly ever since he inherited the position of the three-eyed ape king. Originally, Lin Yuan was considered a little famous in the periphery of the Hengduan mountain range. Basically, all the demon slayers who worked in this field could recognize that he was the black snake from his body shape. However, in the entire human world, Lin Yuan could only be regarded as an ordinary little snake demon. No one took him seriously at all. However, at this moment, the rumor about the black snake destroying Mountain Blocking City had just spread. Obviously, the black snake's reputation in the human society couldn't be compared to before. In this disaster known as the disaster of the Berserk Python, the name of the black snake even had the effect of stopping children from crying at night in some border cities. Obviously, Lin Yuan's image, which was not good to begin with, became more and more demonic in the mouth of humans. However, some observant people keenly noticed that although the news about the Berserk Python disaster was becoming more and more serious in the Shenwu dynasty, whether it was the Demon Slayers Association or the imperial family of the Shenwu dynasty, It was as if they had never heard of the name Black Snake. No matter if it was in the open or in the dark, there was almost no movement against the Hengduan mountain range. Moreover, the source of this rumor was repeatedly suppressed. However, not only did it not disappear, it even had a tendency to become more and more intense. However, these people who spread the rumor all relied on their mouths. No one could produce any evidence at all. However, those who could see through this were all very smart people. Naturally, they wouldn't expose the last layer of fig leaf of the Shenwu dynasty. At this time, the purple-eyed youth, who was the person responsible for the reconstruction of Mountain Blocking City, was taking advantage of a cool breeze during this period of time. He was named and praised by the emperor in the Shenwu dynasty's imperial court one after another. Not only was he promoted, but the emperor even specially selected a reserve army from Shenlin Jun, which was known as the emperor's personal army. The members of the Shenlin Jun were all members of the imperial family or orphans left behind from the battlefield. Since childhood, they had been using special spiritual items to strengthen their bodies. It would take them a full 15 years to train to become an army. At present, this reserve army of around 3,000 Shenlin Jun was almost the strongest fighting force under his command. Even if the army of airborne realm soldiers were not able to defeat a large number of wisdom realm monsters, once the two sides were in a deadlock, this Shenlin Jun would not be at a disadvantage. From the signs of this reserve army being transferred, it was already clear that the emperor of the Shenwu dynasty had now regarded the monsters as a potential threat that could riot at any time. 7th update. Chapter 191. Half a month later, the snow had just stopped, and the entire world was a vast expanse. Lin Yuan stood proudly in the middle of the stone claw forest. His heterochromatic eyes shone brightly, emitting a domineering aura. At this moment, in front of Lin Yuan, was the Xianyang python, who had not appeared for a long time. Black Snake Beast King, long time no see. Recently, your name has been like thunder to the ears. A cold smile appeared on Xianyang's face, and his eyes revealed a bit of coldness. The rumors that had been circulating in the Shenwu dynasty for half a month not only pointed the spearhead of the matter at Lin Yuan, but also in the Hengduan mountain range, the influence of the name Black Snake Beast King had reached its peak. Ever since the humans had taken control of the Tianwu continent, the Monster Beast clan had always been in existence that could be killed or plundered. This oppressive period lasted for hundreds and thousands of years, until the Black Snake Beast King appeared out of nowhere, directly reversing the law of the war between the two clans. Not only did it defeat the monster-subduing army that entered the Monster Beast forest, it also destroyed a border city of the Shenwu dynasty in one go. The most terrifying thing was that the Shenwu dynasty did not use this opportunity to pressure the Monster Beast clan, as if they were planning to swallow half of this anger. After a series of actions by the Shenwu dynasty, the name of the Black Snake Beast King became a mythical existence. You're too polite. If it wasn't for Lord supporting me from behind, I'm afraid I would have been torn to shreds by the Green Swamp clan. It's fine if other monster beasts call me Beast King, but we are brothers. Why be so formal? Lin Yuan also smiled, but his smile was very sincere. Hearing Lin Yuan's words, Xianyang's expression also became slightly better. After all, this black snake was able to sit firmly on the Beast King position because it and Wanyu had killed a group of monster beasts led by the Blood Claw of the Green Swamp clan. In addition, with the help of Lord, so without their existence, this bullshit Black Snake Beast King might have already been digested by the lizards of the Green Swamp clan. At present, the Black Snake did not put on airs because of its rise in status. That was a good point. Even though Xianyang didn't come here with any good intentions, seeing how sensible Black Snake was, Xianyang naturally had to follow the principle of not hitting a smiling snake. He gave up his initial plan of deterrence and said with a chuckle, "My lord wants me to ask you how long it will take to finish the things at hand. After all, you should know clearly what we've done for you. Now it's time to pay back. If you fail to do it, I won't be able to explain it to my lord." When Xianyang finished speaking, he didn't notice that Lin Yuan's eyes had narrowed. After all, Under the pressure of a series of war missions, he simply did not have the time to consider how to balance the hostility between himself and the surrounding Beast Kings. Now, apart from King Kong and Bai Lu, the veteran Beast Kings had almost all been replaced with a new batch of blood. Naturally, there was no longer any enmity between them and Lin Yuan. Therefore, the arrangements that Wan Yu had made back then were all for naught. Lin Yuan felt that he had underestimated the attention that Lord paid to him. As soon as a gap appeared, that Lord immediately sent Xian Yang to urge Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan opened his mouth, but for a moment he couldn't find the words to say. Xian Yang leisurely swayed his snake tail. The smile on his face didn't change as he said, "Of course, you are a Beast King after all. You have your own responsibilities. If you really can't find the time to come with me today, it doesn't matter. However, that friend from the mountain-shaking ape clan might have to suffer for a few more days." Xian Yang didn't have the slightest intention of hiding anything. He was just short of directly telling Lin Yuan, "If you don't come with me to see my lord today, there won't be a good ending for Men Capital." As soon as his voice fell, Lin Yuan's eyes instantly became gloomy. Xian Yang's operation was an open scheme. After all, the two sides didn't have a private meeting. The old wolf, Zhuing, and Na Qin were all nearby and heard every word of this conversation. At this moment, they were also staring at Lin Yuan with shining eyes, patiently waiting for Lin Yuan to make a decision. If placed in human society, this move of Xian Yang's could be considered murderous. Lin Yuan was just a Beast King that came out of nowhere. If it wasn't for the prestige of the three-eyed ape and the support of Men Capital, how could he have become the famous Black Snake Beast King today? Because of Lin Yuan, Men Capital was captured by Yao Beasts. Xian Yang directly threw the ball over. If he rashly left Stoneclaw Forest to save Men Capital, not only would Lin Yuan not be able to guarantee Men Capital's safety, he might not even be able to protect his own life. But if he left Men Capital alone? Not to mention what the old wolf and Zhuing thought, just Na Qin, who had become the leader of the Stoneclaw tribe after Men Capital disappeared, would definitely not listen to Lin Yuan. If he dared to say, "Oh, today," the prestige he had painstakingly built up would instantly scatter. Even the Yao beasts in his territory would no longer obey him, the Beast King. "I've been defeated," Lin Yuan cursed in his heart. Since he came to this world, more than half a year had passed. This was the first time a Yao beast had played with him. With just a few simple words, he was directly roasted on the fire. This kind of sinister idea obviously couldn't have come from Xian Yang. Otherwise, this guy, who was only at Wisdom Realm level 5, wouldn't have been unable to become a Beast King in the outer regions of the Hengduan mountain range. At this moment, Wan Yu's voice suddenly faintly sounded from the side. "Who do you think you are? You came to my Stoneclaw Forest empty-handed and said you wanted to see our Beast King, so you'll see our Beast King. Now that we've given you enough face, why don't you take the lead?" "Traitor." The moment Xian Yang saw Wan Yu appear, his eyes were instantly filled with a layer of fine blood vessels. Previously, his relationship with Wan Yu wasn't bad, but his impression of Wan Yu was that she was a brainless, boorish person. But after Wan Yu joined Lin Yuan's faction, she directly blocked all avenues to recruit Lin Yuan. Moreover, she changed her previous boorish behavior and became one of Lin Yuan's think tanks. This made Xian Yang feel like he was betrayed. More importantly, he didn't even see any signs of it before. Under this strong contrast, he felt like an idiot. He was being toyed with by Wan Yu and he didn't even know it. "TSK traitor? Are you calling me?" Wan Yu wriggled her snake body and stood behind Lin Yuan. She opened her mouth again. "I'm only loyal to my king. You're just a person without any power. What right do you have to call me a traitor? Could it be that you think I'm as brainless as you and can be toyed with as you wish? I advise you to wake up." Chapter 192. I won't argue with you. Xian Yang coldly snorted and turned his head to the side. He stared at Lin Yuan and asked, "Black Snake, what do you say now? Have you thought it through? Will you put down everything and leave with me, or will you wait for a while?" According to Master's intention, she would directly use an open and aboveboard scheme to crush Lin Yuan. She didn't plan on giving him a chance. Hee. Wan Yu sneered again and said in a cold voice, I've already said that you're just an idle monster beast that doesn't even have a faction. It's fine if you don't pay your respects when you see my king, but you dare to call my king by his name? You don't really think that you have a chance to speak with me, Wang Ping, right? Lin Yuan saw Wan Yu's aggressive appearance and naturally gave up the stage. He only coldly looked at Xian Yang without saying anything. Very good, Black Snake, I understand your thoughts. Seeing that Black Snake didn't have any intention of stopping Wan Yu, Xian Yang coldly snorted and turned to leave. Idiot, you don't really think that we'll believe you just because you throw a sentence and say that the dodo is with you? I even invited your mother here. Wan Yu domineeringly scolded. She immediately swung her snake tail and coldly said, Na Qin, don't you want to save your dodo brother? Why don't you make a move and leave this python behind so that you can exchange it with the people guarding the dodo? Rumble. Just as Wan Yu's voice fell, Na Qin, who had already stepped into the second level of the wisdom stage, swung the stone rod in his hand and rushed forward. He didn't even consider the difference in strength between him and Xian Yang. Just hearing Xian Yang's words, this mountain-shaking ape with a violent temper was itching to fight. You're courting death. Xian Yang angrily roared and twisted his body to meet Na Qin's attack. In less than 3 moves, Na Qin's aggressive appearance had completely disappeared. Instead, he constantly dodged and blocked under Xian Yang's snake tail and flames. He had completely lost the initiative of the battle. If this continued, Na Qin would die sooner or later. We're all brothers from the same territory. You can't just watch your brothers bleed for nothing, right? Lin Yuan raised his eyelids and looked around at Old Wolf and Zhuing who were watching the show. The Old Wolf and Zhuing, one was at the 3rd level of wisdom perception, while the other was at the 2nd level of wisdom perception. When they heard Lin Yuan's command, they immediately joined the battle. In an instant, the 4 demonic beasts on the field fought vigorously. For a moment, they even fought to the point where they felt like they were evenly matched. Lin Yuan slowly walked to Wan Yu's side. He narrowed his eyes and asked, How confident are you in exchanging Mysterious Sun for Gate Capital? 2 points. Wan Yu curled her lips and straightforwardly replied, Sir, needs the purer the bloodline of the gatherers, the better. However, if the chosen demonic beast's bloodline is not qualified, you can also use a fire attribute spirit item to make up for it. This Xian Yang is the gatherer that was chosen before you. However, looking at this unlucky kid, I'm afraid he can't see anything. He was 20% confident. Was the probability high? The answer was no. Although Wan Yu said that if the bloodline was not pure enough, he could use a fire attribute spirit item to make up for it. However, with Lin Yuan as the best choice, that Sir would definitely not value Mysterious Sun as much as he did. Unless he had something that could make that Sir feel afraid, then he might let him go. Lin Yuan's mind was spinning rapidly as he constantly thought of a countermeasure to break out of this situation. After all, once Mysterious Sun was taken down today, both sides would completely fall out. The 3 demonic beasts fought fiercely with Xian Yang for about half an hour before finally showing signs of exhaustion. Xian Yang almost broke out of the encirclement due to a moment of carelessness. Fortunately, Wan Yu, who had been observing from the side, seized the opportunity and whipped Xian Yang back into the battle. Just a moment ago, he was still awe-inspiring and looked like a general. In the end, he was forced into a dead end by Wan Yu's words. At this moment, he was battered and exhausted. Even the scales on his body were cracked by the 3 demonic beasts. From time to time, some blood would flow out. He looked like he was barely breathing. Lady Wan Yu, what do we do now? Na Qin's rod struck Mysterious Sun's skull. The terrifying force brought about vibrations that constantly reverberated in Mysterious Sun's head. As his body swayed, Mysterious Sun's entire snake body went limp. Take him away and guard him well. Don't give him a chance to escape. After a period of time, there will naturally be demonic beasts that will contact us. At that time, we can propose to exchange Mysterious Sun for Mendu. Wan Yu's thoughts were abnormally clear. She no longer had the slightest bit of stupidity from before. At this point, Wan Yu suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. She looked around and said with a trembling voice, What's going on here? Why do I feel like I'm being watched? Lin Yuan used his tail to lightly pat Wan Yu and said with a smile, "It's just your mind playing tricks on you. Alright, all demonic beasts have to respect the rules of the game. That sir wouldn't personally come to the outskirts of the Hengduan mountain range to capture us, right? As long as that sir doesn't personally come, I really don't care about a few intelligence demonic beasts." After being comforted by Lin Yuan, the fear in Wan Yu's eyes receded a little. She still maintained her original appearance, but her body was constantly swaying, as if she would fall to the ground at any time. 2 hours later, a huge creature was awakened from the purgatory flames. After muttering to itself for a moment, it shook its head. 2 cold rays of light suddenly blossomed from its eyes. It immediately replayed what happened between mysterious Sun, Wan Yu, and Lin Yuan. "Good, very good, Wan Yu." The huge creature's voice was abnormally cold as it said icily, "You even dare to touch my people. It seems that I made a mistake back then. I really didn't realize that you were actually such a ruthless character." With a belly full of anger, the huge creature maintained a low altitude and slowly left its nest. "Feng Lei, Feng Yan, you 2 brothers have worked hard to make a trip to the Stoneclaw Forest for me. Remember, there are still 2 targets worth paying attention to. Don't be careless. If there's a chance to capture them alive, you'd better bring this black snake out for me. If you can't, it's fine. Just teach him a lesson, but don't take his life." The huge creature's eyes turned. A moment later, 2 demonic beasts with a faint glow jumped out from the side and rushed towards the Stoneclaw Forest. In the blink of an eye, they left behind 2 long trails. Chapter 193. Lin Yuan's heart tightened at the innate sense of danger that beasts were born with. He glanced at Xian Yang, who was being held captive, and the sense of danger surfaced in his heart again. Could it be that the feeling of being spied on by Wan Yu was real? Were the existences of the desolate demon realm really so mysterious that even if he did not appear, they could still find out what was happening here? A sense of danger flashed across Lin Yuan's heart. After all, although the system in his body was hidden, it was not flawless. Every time he grew, he relied on killing other beasts to obtain attribute points. Moreover, every time he leveled up, his body would grow a little. If these were seen by the existences of the desolate demon realm or even higher, wouldn't his secret be exposed? Host, please rest assured that the system's secrecy is not something that can be detected by observation. All the changes in the host can be attributed to the mutation of the bloodline. Although there are not many similar examples, it is not unheard of. Furthermore, even though the monsters in the desolate demon realm are strong, they are still quite a distance away from becoming gods. They can't observe every corner all the time. Just now, they were just lucky enough to catch a glimpse of it. The system's voice rang in Lin Yuan's mind, as if it was a matter of course. If, and I'm saying if, your existence is discovered by other creatures, what will you do? While Lin Yuan breathed a sigh of relief, his heterochromatic eyes slightly narrowed as he frantically tested the boundaries of death. If the other party accidentally discovered you, or came to this conclusion after observing the host for a period of time, the system will immediately kill them. If the host deliberately revealed the existence of the system will kill the host and find the next suitable host to bind to. It was not that the system had never interfered in a battle before. After all, although this thing was usually like a cold artificial intelligence, it had its own temper. Previously, when the dove serpent had tried to steal the system's power, the system had attacked in anger, and the dove serpent's bones had exploded on the spot. This was also one of the reasons why the dove serpent's true body had not been able to defeat Lin Yuan. After all, the injuries that the system had inflicted on it were not something that could be healed with just a few days or 8 months of recuperation. After all, it was a system that was bound to Lin Yuan. Therefore, when the system noticed that Lin Yuan was on the verge of courting death, it immediately gave Lin Yuan a big cross and issued a warning. After all, no matter if it was in his previous life or in this life, Lin Yuan had experienced too much bloody darkness. So as long as he could achieve his goal, he didn't care what methods he used. In other words, Lin Yuan could really tell the other party about the existence of the system in order to deal with an enemy that he couldn't deal with, and then use the power of the system to wipe out the other party's existence. However, this was absolutely forbidden in the system's rules. Black Serpent you don't even know who your enemy is. Shen Yang was pressed to the ground by Na Qin's stone rod. His eyes were still filled with madness, and he looked at Lin Yuan as if he was looking at a corpse that was about to turn cold. I'm sorry, but you don't know who your enemy is either. Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly and said indifferently, I have a premonition that the existence behind Shen Yang will soon send its own powerful demonic beasts to Stoneclaw Forest. Screech. As soon as Lin Yuan finished speaking, a strange roar came from the sky. Lin Yuan glanced to the side and saw two huge blue birds flapping their wings. Their cold and sharp eyes were staring at Lin Yuan and his group of demonic beasts. Although the two parties didn't communicate at all, Lin Yuan could clearly feel the enmity from these two huge birds. Feng Lei and Feng Yen are the cleaners under Milord. They specialize in dealing with those demonic beasts that don't listen to orders. Although these two fellows aren't ranked high among the cleaners, they are still at the 6th level of the wisdom state. Wan Yu's body trembled, as if she was facing a great enemy. Almost all bird-type demonic beasts were the natural enemies of snakes. After all, with the body structure of snake-type demonic beasts, it was difficult for them to deal with threats from the sky. However, Lin Yuan, who controlled both ice and water, wasn't in this category. It could even be said that he was the natural enemy of all bird-type demonic beasts. After all, once their feathers were wet, it was difficult for them to continue flying no matter how strong they were. However, when facing these two huge birds that didn't conceal their enmity, Lin Yuan didn't act rashly. He could feel something familiar from these two huge birds. That was the aura of a purgatory demonic beast. Black Serpent, come with us. Otherwise, die. Feng Lei and Feng Yen spoke one after another, just like a comedian in a crosstalk. Scram before I lose my temper. Lin Yuan raised his eyelids and replied without the slightest fear. With his current cultivation, fighting against a 6th-level wisdom demonic beast was a fool's dream, not to mention two of them. But even if you lose to a demonic beast, you can't lose to others. When facing a demonic beast, this kind of vicious creature, the more ferocious you are, the more other demonic beasts wouldn't dare to provoke you. Once you show your fear, the only result that awaits you is death. Feng Lei and Feng Yen looked at each other. They obviously didn't think that a mere 2nd-level wisdom demonic beast would be so arrogant. Their eyes were filled with killing intent, but seeing Lin Yuan's calm and composed appearance, they were a little scared. After all, before they set off, their master had repeatedly ordered them not to harm the Black Serpent's life. When a normal demonic beast heard the name Sweeper, they would be scared to death. Even Wan Yu looked as if she was facing a great enemy. However, Lin Yuan's attitude was as if he could kill them with a wave of his hand. This was one of the reasons why they were shocked. Black Serpent, I'll say it one last time. Come with us. Feng Lei flapped his wings, and a strong gust of wind hit Lin Yuan's body. Formless ice. Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes flashed with a glimmer of light. In an instant his innate ability was activated. Feng Lei's flapping wings were instantly covered in a layer of crystal-clear ice. After observing for a period of time, he found that the purgatory demonic beasts basically didn't have any innate abilities. No matter what species they were, they would all summon the same purgatory flame. In a battle where there wasn't any disagreement, once Lin Yuan made the first move, the purgatory demonic beasts could only suffer. After losing his wings, Feng Lei naturally couldn't continue to fly. He could only adjust his body and slow down his falling speed. Finally, he landed steadily on the ground. His eyes flashed with anger and humiliation as he said coldly, "You're courting death." Feng Yen instantly understood. With a flap of his wings, he turned into a streak of azure light and charged towards Lin Yuan. Chapter 10. Delivery, asking for guaranteed monthly tickets on the first of the day after tomorrow. Chapter 194. That's it. The corner of Lin Yuan's eyes twitched as he sneered, "Back and forth, it's just the same few moves." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Yuan's speed was pushed to the maximum and he turned around to avoid Feng Yan's attack. Without waiting for Feng Yan to adjust his direction, Wan Yu, who was waiting at the side, had already jumped up. As a river python, Wan Yu had the terrifying strength to drag a large boat into the water. If Feng Yan was flying in the sky, it wouldn't be able to do anything. But if Feng Yan was in its attack range, it would be a different story. The attribute panel of a level 6 wisdom state demonic beast is extremely terrifying. However, at this level, attributes are not the most important thing. Innate skills are what really determine whether a demonic beast is powerful or not. If Feng Lei and Feng Yan dared to directly use the purgatory fire, Lin Yuan would naturally have no choice but to surrender. However, this is the Hengduan Mountains, the territory of the Beast Master, the Qilin. Even the Lord behind these two giant bird brothers wouldn't dare to reveal that he was actually a purgatory demon beast, let alone these two giant bird brothers. Without the terrifying innate ability of purgatory flame, Lin Yuan didn't put these two giant birds in his eyes at all. But he definitely didn't treat these two giant birds as his enemies. The demon power on Lin Yuan's panel was jumping crazily, and it was decreasing rapidly every second. However, even if Feng Yan used all his strength, he still couldn't break free from the ice shackles on his body. He could only look at Lin Yuan unhappily. On the other side, Feng Yan and Wan Yu were fighting. Although there was a difference of one level between the two, the difference in strength wasn't just a little. After losing the advantage on land, Feng Yan was almost completely suppressed. The snake and bird that were entangled together rolled crazily on the ground, flattening the ground. Countless boulders and trees were smashed, but Feng Yan still couldn't break free from Wan Yu's shackles. The so-called cleaner is only SOSO. When Lin Yuan saw that his 300 points of demon power was about to reach 0, he calmly released the shackles on Feng Yan and said expressionlessly, "I'll give face to the Lord behind you and disappear from my sight immediately. Otherwise, I won't be so polite anymore." 1 minute. With 300 points of demonic energy, Lin Yuan would be able to slaughter at least 10,000 demonic beasts in the Spirit Awakening realm. But when it was used to control a level 6 intelligence perception demonic beast, it could only last for a minute. Curly Moon, let go of that guy and let them scram. Seeing that Zephyr and Thunder didn't act rashly after being unbound, Lin Yuan spoke again. After receiving the order, Wan Yu no longer continued to pester Feng Yan and directly threw him to the side. However, he still maintained a state of alert, clearly worried that Feng Yan would not stop. Feng Yan crashed into a dozen trees and stood up shakily. His eyes filled with ruthlessness paused on Wan Yu for a moment before he turned around to look at the indifferent Feng Lei. Although he looked unwilling, he still flapped his wings and returned to Feng Lei's side. "My temper won't always be so good. So, before I get angry, disappear from my sight." Lin Yuan sat up. His heterochromatic eyes didn't have any ripples as he calmly said, "When you go back, remember to tell your lord to stop playing such tricks. I know what he wants and what he wants. Even if he uses his full strength, you won't dare to take my life. However, I can kill without hesitation. If your lord feels that he has too many subordinates, I don't mind helping him clean up a few." At this point, Lin Yuan paused, his voice filled with a trace of ridicule, and continued, "Oh, right. Quickly return the door, or else I can't guarantee that I won't say something I shouldn't." Whether it was that lord or this pair of giant bird brothers, Lin Yuan was now certain that the true core members of this demonic beast force led by Lord were all purgatory demonic beasts. Feng Lei and Feng Yan were continuously deflated and didn't continue the conversation. However, after hiding for so long, they were very clear about the rules of the Hengduan Mountains. They were also clear about the Lord's goal and request. Therefore, they only coldly glanced at Lin Yuan before spreading their wings again and quickly disappearing from Lin Yuan's sight. When the two giant birds had completely disappeared, Lin Yuan's body swayed for a moment before he collapsed like a pile of mud. He wasn't sure what demonic power was. It seemed to have nothing to do with physical strength or mental strength. However, his demonic power was almost exhausted and had already affected the state of his body. It felt like his body was being hollowed out. If he wasn't forcefully holding on to his last breath to maintain his image, he wouldn't have been able to continue pretending. Now, Lin Yuan only wanted to return to his nest and have a good sleep. On the other side, through some special method, the giant creature shared the vision of Feng Lei and Feng Yan and saw everything. It only retracted its consciousness when the giant bird brothers began their return journey. Say something I shouldn't say? Interesting, is this a threat? The giant creature's mouth opened, revealing a sinister smile. With its intelligence, it wasn't difficult to guess what the black snake meant. If it continued to force it, the black snake might report the fact that it and one of its subordinates were actually purgatory demonic beasts to the beast Lord Kirin. Although it could use some small tricks to cover the aura of purgatory demonic beasts, this kind of trick obviously couldn't withstand a strict investigation. If things really went to that step, it might end up perishing together with the black snake. However, how did this guy find out that they were purgatory demonic beasts? Using a black claw to rub the space between its eyebrows, the giant creature's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. Although it really did need the purgatory heart, compared to the growth of its strength, it cared more about its safety. The black snake was the sacrifice in its plan and naturally stood on the opposite side. Although the black snake was just an ant that could be crushed at any time, the black snake that knew their secret was also a ticking time bomb. If the black snake leaked this information, this group of demonic beasts would be completely wiped out. Qi Jian, what do you think? The giant creature suddenly opened its mouth and asked. A moment later, the giant creature's shadow suddenly wriggled and a scarlet blood snake slowly crawled out from its shadow. A pair of pure black eyes fell on the giant creature's body. The snake flicked its tongue at a special frequency, as if it was using this method to communicate with the giant creature. The giant creature also revealed a thoughtful expression from time to time and nodded from time to time to express its approval. Chapter 195. When Lin Yuan woke up, it was already 3 days later. Ever since the destruction of Mountain Blocking City, he had not gone out for more than half a month. During this period of time, he had been absorbing the spiritual energy from the green leaf water lotus every day. At the same time, he had also refined the offerings from the various monsters in his territory, constantly increasing his own free attribute points in preparation for the next advancement. Although this speed was very slow, the accumulation of half a month's time was still quite considerable. System, increase my defense attribute by 50 points. With a thought, Lin Yuan added all the attribute points he had accumulated during this period of time. Host, Lin Yuan status, Sky-Piercing Black Python, transforming into a Flood Dragon, Realm, 13 20th talents. 1. Identify the enemy's location based on smell, cannot be advanced. 2. Create an accurate image of a 500-meter range based on smell, can be advanced, 0/100. 3. Monarch of Water, your ability to control water has reached a certain level. In front of you now, most of the methods to control water flow are so shallow and inferior. As long as you have a thought, you can deprive your opponent of their ability to control water flow at any time. Can be advanced, 0/100. 4. Formless Ice, your control of the ice element has reached a preliminary stage. You are no longer the little trash who can only freeze water flow to injure others. The current you, together with your water talent, can even freeze the moisture in the air, turning your ice into formless. Can be advanced, 0/300. 5. Blood Sacrifice Wish Technique, use your own blood or other living creature's blood, can be replaced by attribute points, as a sacrifice to make a wish. Whether the wish is fulfilled or not depends on the strength of the wish and the quality of the sacrifice. Cannot be advanced. 6. Flood Dragon Scale Armor. When the scale armor is in good condition, it can provide the host with a 20% increase in defense. Cannot be advanced. 6. Pseudo-lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. The reason why the ancient holy kings ruled the world was because they had cultivated to the realm of lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. To cultivators, lawful embodiment of heaven and earth was the foundation of achieving Tao. After comprehending this skill, you could freely control the size of your body. The smallest size could not be smaller than the smallest size of your species, and the largest size could not exceed your original size. Can be advanced, 0 out of 100, speed, 50 defense, 90 plus 18 attack, 60 demonic power, 450 assignable points, 0 martial arts, 1. Golden body secrets, 65 out of 100, 2. Tyrannical song of the world, cannot be upgraded, skills, 1. Death coil, 279 of 300, 2. Poison of poisoned liquor, 111/300, 3. Thorn whip, 2 of 300, 4. Blood boil technique, 7 out of 100, 5. All things have spirit, can communicate with living beings through thoughts, cannot advance, items. Light feather, petrifying Lin Yuan had cleanly advanced to the 3rd rank of the wisdom realm. His defensive power could be said to be terrifying. It was estimated that even the turtle-type demonic beasts, which were known to be the best at defense, might not be as terrifying as Lin Yuan when they were at the same rank. He also repaired light feather in passing. After all, it was also a tool. The gliding ability was also surprisingly useful at certain times. After almost all the preparation work was done, Lin Yuan stretched his body and wriggled out of his nest. He looked at the northeast direction of the Hengduan Mountains. According to Hua Sanyang's description, the burial place of the fire Kirin was in that direction. That area was a forbidden area in the three-eyed ape's records. It was very evil. The demonic beasts that lived there would often inexplicably disappear. Over time, most of the demonic beasts migrated from that area. Usually, no demonic beasts would go there. If it were not for the fire Kirin, Lin Yuan was not too willing to provoke this evil place. Hiss, who? Standing on the boulder outside the waterfall, Lin Yuan took a deep breath. His snake body suddenly stretched out. The light feather on his nape once again bloomed with a layer of faint green light. An invisible force was produced, slowly supporting him forward. Ding! Congratulations to the host. Due to the complete destruction of Zhaban City, the host's enemies have either died or have evacuated from this area. Moreover, they have no intention of marching into the Hengduan Mountains again. The system automatically determined that the host has won the Black Serpent Crusade. The host is rewarded with 500 war points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the final phase of the war mission. Counterattack. Mission reward, 2,000 war points. Several system announcements sounded in Lin Yuan's mind. After destroying Zhaban City, the mission on the war model still continued. Lin Yuan initially thought that Zhaban City did not meet the mission requirements and the system wanted him to raise a few more cities. However, this was just a thought. Even if the system really meant it that way, Lin Yuan would rather have his attribute points deducted. Zhongshan City was already the limit of the Shenwu dynasty. In any case, there was still the agreement with the three-eyed ape. The annual income that Zhongshan City provided to the Shenwu dynasty was pitifully low. If it wasn't for the fact that Zhongshan City had a good geographical advantage and could keep the Hengduan mountain ranges beast-tied out of the city every year, Zhongshan City would have been abandoned long ago. Special circumstances could be treated differently. However, the other few border cities were all treasures of the Shenwu dynasty. As long as Lin Yuan dared to touch them, no matter how clean his hands and feet were, the Shenwu dynasty would never let him off. System, open the war treasury and exchange for the star concealment map. Lin Yuan raised the corner of his mouth and directly issued an order to the system. The star concealment map was something that Lin Yuan came across by chance when he was looking through the war treasury. It was just a small map, but it contained the changes of thousands of stars. If he focused his attention, he could comprehend the changes of the stars. According to the settings in the novels in his previous life, the talented protagonists would often be able to comprehend a few killer moves. However, Lin Yuan was now disappointed with his own talent. If it were not for the system, he might not be able to reach the wisdom state in this lifetime. However, visualizing the star concealment map was not without benefits for Lin Yuan. At least, it could strengthen his mental strength and demonic power. Ding! 5,000 war points deducted. Ding! The star concealment map has been successfully exchanged. Please check it in the host's backpack. When the system broadcast sounded, a relieved smile appeared on Lin Yuan's face. In fact, the 3 missions and the rewards from winning the war did not even reach 5,000 war points. However, Lin Yuan had not been idle for the past half a month. The reinforcements sent from the nearby cities patrolled around Mountain Blocking City and activated many small war missions. This allowed Lin Yuan to accumulate enough war points. Lord Beast King, the White Deer Beast King, has sent a messenger. Would you like to meet him? Na Qin stood beside the lake and looked at Lin Yuan, who was gliding freely on the lake. He could not help but shout at the top of his lungs. Batu, who had been disturbed from his dream, pushed open the stone door and walked out angrily. Chapter 196. He looked at Na Qin from head to toe. Batu was taken aback for a moment. Then he went back to his stone house while cursing. As the successor of the Shattered Stone clan, Batu was familiar with the outstanding mountain-shaking apes of his generation. After all, Meng Do was the leader favored by the three-eyed ape. Whether it was prestige or strength, a crippled ape like Meng Do could not compare to him. Na Qin was the same. Although Na Qin was not outstanding in the Shattered Stone clan, this guy liked to bully Bata since they were young. Therefore, when he saw this familiar face, Bata only thought for a moment, then returned to his stone house while cursing. Seeing Batu's strange behavior, Na Qin scratched his head and did not continue to speak. He just stared blankly at Lin Yuan, who was gliding in the air. His heart was already in turmoil. It was not that demonic beasts could not fly. Bird-type demonic beasts were born with the ability to fly. After reaching the wisdom realm, demonic beasts could also rely on their own demonic energy or innate skills to fly. However, Na Qin did not sense the slightest fluctuation of demonic energy from Lin Yuan's body. Did this mean that Lin Yuan was completely relying on his own physical strength to fly? After circling twice above the lake, Lin Yuan slowly slid into the lake. From beginning to end, he did not make a single sound, not even a splash. It was as if the lake water was cooperating with him. After about 1 or 2 minutes, Lin Yuan's head slowly rose from the bottom of the lake. His heterochromatic eyes fell on Na Qin, revealing a thoughtful expression. Due to the fact that too many Beast Kings had died during the attack on Mountain Blocking City, the demonic beasts in the vicinity were eager to take over the territories and legacies of the Beast Kings that had died in the battle. However, such actions had obviously violated the interests of White Deer and King Kong. Lin Yuan hid in the Stone Claw Forest to recuperate. Normally, no demonic beasts would dare to find trouble with him. After all, Lin Yuan was now infamous in the Hengduan mountain range. Not to mention anything else, just the fact that he had single-handedly killed Lai Shan and Blind Qin meant that no one would dare to set their sights on the Stone Claw Forest. Therefore, during this period of time, the surrounding territories of the Stone Claw Forest could be said to be engulfed in the flames of war. However, Lin Yuan's territory was like a paradise. It wasn't affected by the flames of war at all. There were even many monsters that were unwilling to participate in the war, so they left their original territories and joined Lin Yuan's territory. Call it over. Lin Yuan nodded slightly, and a trace of clarity returned to his heterochromatic eyes. He didn't have any dreams of flying. The reason why he was hovering above the lake was because he was comprehending the star accumulation diagram. In just a short while, his demonic energy had increased to 452 points. For a demonic energy that hadn't leveled up, this was already a huge improvement. He wasn't annoyed that his cultivation was interrupted. After all, the star accumulation diagram was in his backpack. He could visualize it whenever he wanted. Compared to cultivation, Lin Yuan was more curious about why Bai Lu Beast King contacted him at this time. Could it be that among the surrounding Beast Kings, there was an existence that even Bai Lu and King Kong together couldn't suppress? Black Snake, Bai Lu, and King Kong had formed an alliance after confirming that there would definitely be foreign Beast Kings invading. After all, it was meat in their mouths. Even if they couldn't eat it all, it shouldn't be a problem for them to occupy a large portion of it, right? Not long after, a brown-furred elk slowly walked to the lakeside. It bowed to Lin Yuan and said slowly, "It's an honor to meet you, respected Black Snake Beast King. I'm here on the order of my young master to remind you that the Green Swamp Clan's demonic beasts have begun to move toward this area." As soon as it finished speaking, Lin Yuan's pupils suddenly contracted. Previously, with Lord standing behind him, the Green Swamp Clan didn't dare to act rashly. Even if they wanted to cause trouble, they would only dare to do so in private. After all, Lord was also in existence of the desolate demon realm. If both sides fell out, it wouldn't benefit the Green Swamp Clan at all. But now, the Green Swamp Clan dared to enter the territory near the Stonetalan forest so openly. It was obvious that they were prepared to use their strength to directly defeat Lin Yuan. Even if the Green Swamp Clan couldn't send beings above the Wisdom Realm into the outskirts of the Hengduan Mountains due to the rules, compared to the number of Wisdom Realm demonic beasts, the Green Swamp Clan couldn't even compare to a black snake. This was a signal. It meant that Lord had given up on protecting him. Or it could be said that he was using the Green Swamp Clan to strip him of his assets. After all, he was now a hero who had made outstanding contributions to the Hengduan Mountains. He was also a Beast King pointed at by the human sword. It wasn't impossible for him to spend some effort to chat with Beast King Kirin. But once he lost his position as Beast King, would Beast King Kirin care about him? In terms of individual compatibility, would Beast King Kirin, who ruled the entire Hengduan Mountains, care about him? Although a black snake with dragon blood in its body was not common, it was not rare to the point that an existence at the level of the Beast Lord, the Qilin, would cultivate it as a trusted aid. I understand. Thank you for the information. Send my regards to the White Deer Beast King. All right, Nachin, go get some phase for this brother to snack on the way. Lin Yuan nodded and expressed his goodwill to the brown deer. The brown deer smiled and expressed that it wasn't necessary. It bid farewell to Lin Yuan and walked elegantly toward the White Deer Beast King's territory. Beast King. Nachin stood at the side and heard the entire conversation, but there wasn't any ripple in his eyes. It wasn't the first time that the Green Swamp Clan had secretly attacked the Stoneclaw Forest. Didn't they get beaten back by Lin Yuan every time? Inform the brothers below to get ready to fight at any time. But listen to Scroll Moon's orders and don't engage in meaningless battles. I don't want my brothers to bleed for nothing. Lin Yuan stretched his neck and turned to look toward the northeast. Once the Green Swamp Clan is beaten back, they won't dare to detain Mendo even if I lend them the courage. Before that, I have to leave for a while. When I'm not here, let Scroll Moon take over the Beast King position. If Mendo comes back and I'm not back, then give the Beast King position to Mendo. Anyway, it's something he should have. Beast King. Seeing Lin Yuan's expression, Nachin suddenly panicked. Although he didn't think much of it before, now that he saw Lin Yuan's actions, he knew that Lin Yuan was planning to take the risk to increase his strength. Moreover, it was the kind of increase that could cost him his life at any time. Clearly, Lin Yuan's pressure was completely different from what he felt. Chapter 197. Preparations for the construction of the new Zhanshan city were already in full swing. However, a large amount of materials had yet to arrive. Therefore, the vanguard sent by the Shangwu dynasty had only built a wooden camp at the newly selected location, waiting for the materials to arrive so that they could use this wooden camp as the foundation for the reconstruction. All human cities were gradually transformed into majestic cities that could drive demonic beasts into despair through repeated fortifications and reconstructions. Sir, the injured one seems to be waking up. One of the purple-eyed youth's subordinates, Shadow Walker, walked over and said in a low voice. Immediately, the purple-eyed youth frowned and said in a deep voice, "Jia Luo, didn't I tell you to tamper with that guy's medicine? Why did you still let him wake up?" This team sent from the Shangwu dynasty had picked up a severely injured and dying human on the way to Zhanshan city. There were wounds left by demonic beasts on his body, as well as some burn marks that seemed to have been caused by flames. He looked completely unrecognizable, but the strange thing was that this person was still hanging on to his last breath. I mixed a certain amount of poison into the medicine I gave him, But this guy didn't die on the spot after taking the medicine. Instead, he became more energetic. I saw his fingers and eyelids trembling, as if he could wake up at any time. Jia Luo also had a gloomy look on his face. He had been an assassin for many years and knew the principle of, when a person is killed, he will die. He was also very familiar with all kinds of assassination techniques, and poisoning was one of his basic skills. Therefore, he did not think that he had taken the wrong medicine. He only felt that this injured person might be a monster. Let's go and take a look. The purple-eyed youth walked towards the room where the injured person was placed with his hands behind his back. His eyes turned slightly as he added, "Go and call Commander Li over. Tell him that I have something important to ask him for help." Jialuo nodded. He took a step back and disappeared into the darkness. When the purple-eyed youth arrived at the door of the wooden hut, Commander Li of Xin Lin Jun's preparatory team also rode over. He didn't speak immediately, but jumped off his warhorse and silently took off his leather gloves. His clear eyes looked at the purple-eyed youth, revealing a hint of doubt. The injured man is about to wake up. The purple-eyed young man exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and said, "It's a good thing, but it has something to do with me?" Regiment Commander Li didn't seem to be used to communicating with others. His words were intermittent, and the confusion in his eyes was getting stronger. That injured person is most likely a survivor of Zhanshan City. His vitality is extremely tenacious, which is why he managed to survive until he was discovered by our people. However, the composition of our team is very complicated. There are nobles like me, a fierce general in the army, the Demon Subduing Master Association, the Merchant Association, and other forces. You should know that the higher-ups are spreading rumors because they don't want the truth about Zhanshan City to be leaked. After this survivor is saved, we can't guarantee that he won't say anything. We also can't guarantee that the incident at Zhanshan City won't be leaked. The purple-eyed youth shrugged helplessly. He wasn't thinking for the Black Serpent. He simply didn't want the news of humans degenerating into inferno creatures to be spread to those lunatics who wanted to overthrow the world. Who knows what they would do if they found out? Regiment Commander Li pondered for a moment, then opened his mouth and spat out a word. His vigorous blood aura rose in spirals like a smoke signal. The hair on the purple-eyed youth's body stood on end. He looked at Regiment Commander Li as if he was looking at a monster. His eyes slowly revealed a trace of fear. Regiment Commander Li, on the other hand, was expressionless. He walked toward the small wooden house with large strides like a wolf or a tiger. His right hand was already on the scabbard at his waist. He was a very pure soldier. Ever since his father died on the battlefield and his mother abandoned him, he became what others called the battlefield orphan. It was also because of this that he was adopted by Xin Lin Jun and received training from the age of 6. It was only until today that he received the order to leave that place where he carried out all kinds of non-existent missions other than training. Therefore, at this moment, Regiment Commander Li didn't have any personal thoughts. Everything he did was done in a way that was beneficial to the Shenwu dynasty. The higher-ups didn't want the incident at Zhanshan City to be leaked. Wouldn't it be better to just kill the injured person? The purple-eyed youth smiled bitterly. He shook his head and stood in front of Regiment Commander Li. He said in a deep voice, "Regiment Commander Li, you can't kill that guy directly. Otherwise, the Demon Subduing Master Association and the Merchant Association won't let this matter go." "But they want to harm the Shenwu dynasty?" Regiment Commander Li questioned from the depths of his soul. The murderous aura in his eyes grew denser. The purple-eyed youth didn't doubt that as long as he nodded, this young regiment commander would lead Xin Lin Jun's preparatory team to slaughter the Demon Subduing Master Association and the Merchant Association. He had the strength and guts to do so. This man was like a piece of white paper. He wouldn't have the slightest scruple or weigh the pros and cons of his actions. It's not that they want to harm the Shenwu dynasty. It's just that these people are different from you and me. Compared to the benefits of the dynasty, they value their own benefits more. This is human nature. You can be shameless, but you can't say that they're wrong. These guys aren't good people. The reason why they saved this person was to get some information about Zhanshan City from him. They wanted to see if there was any way to make a fortune. If there's no other way, they could sell some valuable information to those who need it. Now that he's about to wake up, if you kill him directly, it's the same as cutting off their source of income. In the eyes of these money-hunting dogs, cutting off one's source of income is no different from killing one's parents. Regiment Commander Lee, leave this matter to me. I'll definitely give you a satisfactory answer. However, before I come to a conclusion, you have to guard this place. Don't let anyone enter the small wooden house. Let me be alone with that guy for a period of time. The purple-eyed youth opened his arms and stood guard at the door of the small wooden house. He was afraid that Regiment Commander Lee would be unhappy and directly rush into the small wooden house to kill the injured person. This wasn't a battlefield. Even if he wanted to kill someone, he had to pay attention to his methods. If these fellows were dissatisfied, who knew what they would do? All right. Regiment Commander Lee pondered for a moment and nodded decisively. He made a few hand signals to the reserve soldiers of the Divine Forest Army around him. These fully armed soldiers immediately formed a formation of 3 people and were on high alert around the small wooden house. Chapter 198. Seeing that Commander Lee had calmed down, the purple-eyed youth also let out a sigh of relief. After the purple-eyed youth pushed open the door and entered the room, Commander Lee's eyes flashed with a cold light. He didn't have much experience in scheming, but that didn't mean he was an idiot. If the merchant or demon slayer master told him the same thing, he would definitely pull out his sword and chop off that bastard's head. However, he and the purple-eyed youth both belonged to the Shenwu dynasty, so he chose to believe him. After all, they were of the same mind. The better the Shenwu dynasty developed, the better their prospects would be. In the distance, the troops of the Demon Subduing Master Guild and the Merchant Guild were already marching over. If things had gone according to the original plot, the Demon Slayer Guild and the Merchant Guild would have started a fight here to determine the victor. The loser would have no choice but to leave, while the victor would be able to enter the small wooden hut and obtain some important information from the mouth of the wounded. However, at this moment, the leaders of the Demon Slayer Master Association and the Merchant Guild looked at each other. Looking at the soldiers guarding the wooden hut, their eyes revealed a dignified expression. The Divine Forest Army was the Emperor's personal army, and it was also the army with the greatest battle prowess out of all the armies in the Shenwu dynasty. Even if it was only a reserve army, it was not something that 2 civilian organizations could deal with. Hello, Commander Lee. You guys are... The person in charge of the Merchant Guild was a round fatty. After patrolling the area and making sure that there were no loopholes, he immediately went up to Commander Lee and greeted him. Lock down, Liv. Commander Lee said expressionlessly, his right hand still pressed on the hilt of the sword at his waist. During Shin Lin Jun's training, he had heard from some of his comrades that these golden hunting dogs would even kill their own friends for benefits. They had no principles or bottom line to speak of. Therefore, when facing these people, Commander Lee's vigilance was not much lower than when facing those extremely evil people. It's like this, Regiment Commander Lee. We saved the injured person inside. Now that we heard that he's awake, we want to go in and ask him some questions. Can you make it convenient for us? Fatty chuckled as he spoke. At the same time, he took out a thick stack of gold notes from his sleeves and silently stuffed it into Captain Lee's hands. Regiment Commander Lee lowered his head to look at the gold notes that Fatty stuffed into his hand. His eyes narrowed and his entire body began to tremble. A hint of gloominess flashed across his eyes. Clang. Regiment Commander Lee's sharp blade was 2 inches out of its scabbard. Don't be angry, don't be angry. The person in charge of the Demon Slayer Guild was a muscular man. Seeing that Captain Lee was about to get angry, the muscular man didn't dare to continue watching the Merchants Guild make a fool of themselves. He could only stride forward and say, Captain Lee, this is Guild Master Su, seeing how hard you've worked, invited us to have some tea. If there's nothing else, we'll leave right away. Let's go. After he finished speaking, he didn't care if Captain Lee didn't reply. He grabbed Guild Master Su and turned to leave. The relationship between the Demon Slayer Guild and the Merchants Guild was actually very contradictory. After all, without the Merchants Guild, the Demon Slayer Guild wouldn't be able to sell any of their demon beast materials and spirit items. They could only sell them to the city's garrison army at a low price. However, although the Merchants Guild's price was higher than the military's, they were still thinking of ways to squeeze the value out of them. The two sides complemented each other, but they didn't see eye to eye with each other. If it wasn't for the fact that Captain Lee's group was too strong and they both needed each other's strength, the muscular man definitely wouldn't have rushed forward to mediate when Captain Lee was angry. Pfft. Captain Lee coldly snorted and returned his sword to its sheath. His gaze was cold as he looked at the backs of the two people leaving. He lowered his head and looked at the stack of gold notes in his hand. His salary for the past few years added together wasn't even worth as much as this stack of gold notes. However, looking at the easy money in his hand, Captain Lee didn't feel happy at all. Instead, he felt as if someone had rushed up and slapped him twice. At first, he was angry, then he felt humiliated. Taking a deep breath, Captain Lee calmed himself down. He expressionlessly threw the stack of gold notes in his hand to his adjutant and said, "Split the money among the brothers. Don't waste their good intentions." The adjutant nodded. His face was expressionless like Captain Lee's. However, the adjutant had already sentenced the fatty from the Merchants Guild to death in his heart. Their captain couldn't tolerate sand in his eyes. This fatty had given Captain Lee money in front of everyone. It was tantamount to slapping Captain Lee's face. In the future, both sides would have to work together for a long time. Hopefully, this fatty would be able to survive until his retirement. On the other side, the purple-eyed youth had already walked into the small wooden house. His eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. "You're here?" The injured person leaned against the headboard. His entire body was wrapped in bandages. Even his vocal cords seemed to be damaged, causing his voice to sound hoarse and deep. "Let me ask you first. Who are you working for?" The injured person let out a long breath. In the dark room with the curtains drawn, he squinted his eyes and said, "Since I've managed to survive, you should at least let me know who my benefactor is, right? Shenwu Dynasty, Lei family, Lei Fan." The purple-eyed youth casually pulled over a stool and sat down. His muscles tensed up. On the surface, he looked relaxed. "That makes me feel a little strange." The injured person chuckled. His tone carried a hint of mockery as he said, "No matter how stupid the Lei family's descendants are, they wouldn't allow someone like me, who had survived the incident in Jianshan City, to live, right? Don't tell me that you didn't guess that I had escaped from Jianshan City. You're very smart. Then why didn't you guess that I was actually a puppet and couldn't stop the Demon Slayer Guild and the Merchant Guild from saving you?" Lei Fan slumped on the chair. His right hand quietly touched the dagger at his waist. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. Just based on the surname Lei, they wouldn't have the guts to do so. The injured person straightened his sitting posture. His hoarse voice rang out again, "Then shouldn't we talk about the matters between us? For example, how can I survive? Or rather, how can you trust me that I won't tell anyone about what happened in Jianshan City?" Lei Fan pondered for a moment. Then he slowly raised his eyelids and asked, "You should be an official of Jianshan City, right? And your position isn't low either. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what the surname Lei means in the Shenwu dynasty. It's even more impossible for you to guess the attitude of the higher-ups towards survivors like you." Jianshan City's garrison legion commander, Luo Tianqi. A dim look flashed across the injured person's eyes. He said helplessly, "You should be the former legion commander." Chapter 199. Luo Tianqi. Lei Fan mulled over the name. He seemed to have some impression of it. He seemed to be a spy left behind by one of the big shots of the Lei family, with the purpose of controlling the military forces of Mountain Blocking City. However, not many people knew about this and he had only heard about it by chance. Thinking about it, it made sense. A fellow without any background would naturally not be able to control the garrison of Mountain Blocking City when the city lord of Mountain Blocking City had changed. This time, the Lei family had sent him to be the city lord of Mountain Blocking City, naturally to bring this fellow to the next stop of his career. However, plans could not keep up with changes. Before he could successfully arrive at Mountain Blocking City, the Liu family's repeated actions against the Black Snake had led to the destruction of Mountain Blocking City. But now that things had come to this, Lei Fan could not think of any reason why Luo Tianqi could not be killed. After all, the Shenwu dynasty would not allow such a hidden danger to exist. In order to cover up the time of the Sky Demon's transformation, the Shenwu dynasty had released many demi-humans with mixed blood of humans and demonic beasts to be ruled by the demonic beast palace. Although humans did not value these demi-humans, but to the demonic beast palace that was surrounded by the 7 great empires, any force that could be thrown into the battlefield was precious. The Shenwu dynasty had paid the price. How could they allow a loophole to exist in this matter? It is reasonable for me to kill you at this time. However, you are after all a disciple of the Lei family. Killing you directly is not the style of the Lei family. I can give you a few days to consider it. If you are willing to give up your name, memories, and everything in the past, I can give you a new identity. Lei Fan's voice rang out slowly, his right hand still pressed on the dagger at his waist. Although the proposal he gave was not bad, at least it would allow this fellow to continue living, but the Lei family's resources could not always be given to an outsider. Once Luo Tianqi gave up everything in the past, it would mean that he had wasted a few decades of time in Mountain Blocking City, in exchange for his own survival. Do I have a choice? It's impossible for the Lei clan to operate this matter because of a disciple like me. The Shenwu dynasty will not allow Luo Tianqi to continue living in this world. Therefore, it's better for Luo Tianqi to die gloriously in the war to defend Mountain Blocking City. Out of Lei Fan's expectations, Luo Tianqi shrugged his shoulders helplessly and got off the bed. He knelt down on one knee and said solemnly, "Luo Su is willing to die for young master." Lei Fan was slightly taken aback. Soon after, he suddenly laughed. This Luo Tianqi seemed to be quite a character. He had abandoned his past so easily and didn't even have the thought of asking Lei clan to help him. After all, this matter wasn't difficult to carry out. They only needed to forge a certificate that Luo Tianqi wasn't in Mountain Blocking City during its destruction. There were also members of Lei clan in several nearby cities. Moreover, there seemed to be no other survivors in Mountain Blocking City apart from Luo Tianqi. However, Lei Fan's pair of beautiful purple eyes flashed with an almost undetectable chill. Before he officially activated Luo Tianqi, there were still some things that he needed to investigate clearly. Firstly, the burn marks on Luo Tianqi's body should have been left behind by the flames of purgatory. Once this kind of flame came into contact with the body, the flesh and bones would become fuel. Only when the target was completely burned to ashes would the flames of purgatory leave the target and return to the body of the purgatory life form, feeding the nutrients it had devoured into the body of the purgatory life form. Furthermore, Jia Luo had obviously changed the medicine that he had given Luo Tianqi to poison. In the end, not only did this fellow whose life was hanging by a thread not die on the spot, he had even regained consciousness. He needed to clarify these two issues before Lei Fan could rule out the possibility that Luo Tianqi had anything to do with the purgatory life form and nurture him as his right-hand man. In the Hengduan Mountains, there was a forbidden area called the Ghost Domain. The demonic beasts that lived here would often mysteriously disappear. It was even possible that the demonic beast that was laughing and chatting with you one moment would disappear without a trace the next moment, never to appear again. The place where the fire Kirin had fallen was this area called the Ghost's Domain. Eerie and sinister. Lin Yuan wandered around the Ghost's Domain. Through his sense of smell, he could not sense any signs of demonic beast activity. In fact, the entire path was filled with weeds, as if there were no signs of life at all, only wild plants growing here. It was said that when this place had become the Ghost's Domain, the demonic beast royal court had sent a team of desolate demon realm demonic beasts to lead the team. More than 20 mountain lord realm demonic beasts had accompanied the team to investigate this strange place. In the end, 3 days later, the 20 over mountain lord realm demonic beasts had all disappeared without a trace. The desolate demon realm demonic beast had said that he did not sense anything out of the ordinary. From then on, no other demonic beasts had dared to step into the ghost's domain. This is going to be very troublesome. Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly and looked around. The last time Hua Sanyang came here was 2 years ago. Her memory was already vague, and the reference points she mentioned had been covered by weeds and vines. Therefore, the only thing he could be sure of now was that the remains of the fire Kirin were indeed in this area. After entering this place, he felt that the spiritual qi of the fire attribute was obviously much stronger, and he could barely sense the existence of the spiritual qi of the water attribute, which made Lin Yuan feel a little uncomfortable. However, without a map and reference points, Lin Yuan could only search here slowly. Who knew when he would find the strange cave that Hua Sanyang mentioned? According to the most popular saying in the ghost's domain, this area was filled with the resentment and spirits of the dead demonic beasts. Once the sun went down, these spirits would come out and drag all the living creatures they saw into their tombs to accompany them. Lin Yuan actually did not believe this saying. Even with the name of the purgatory, living creatures were still living creatures. Since Lin Yuan came to this world, he had never heard of the existence of demons and monsters. However, those missing demonic beasts did indeed disappear during the time between sunset and sunrise. Compared to those strange legends, Lin Yuan believed more that there was a nocturnal demonic beast in this area, and it often came out to hunt at night. As for the demonic beast of the desolate demon realm, it did not notice anything wrong, which could only mean that the nocturnal demonic beast was good at hiding. However, the fact that the demonic beast of the desolate demon realm left this place safely also proved that the demonic beast did not have the ability to compete with the desolate demon realm. Even if it launched a sneak attack, it could only deal with existences in the Mountain Lord realm, and it might not even be in the Mountain Lord realm. I'll look for it tomorrow. Sighing helplessly, Lin Yuan looked around and found a slightly spacious plot of land, curled up, and began to close his eyes to sleep. Chapter 200. It was nighttime. Hiss, hiss, hiss. A strange sound was heard, waking up Lin Yuan, who was taking a nap. The snake's tongue flicked out. There was no trace of any creature within a radius of 500 meters. Was it just the sound of the wind? Lin Yuan chuckled. He felt that he was being paranoid. The demon ghost had been abandoned for a long time. Even if there was a powerful nocturnal beast, it would have left this area long ago. Otherwise, this guy would have starved to death. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The strange sound was heard again. This time, it was a lot more urgent. Lin Yuan was sure that something was approaching him. But this guy could actually avoid the detection of his olfactory skill. Hiding your head and showing your tail, come out. Lin Yuan roared. A light flashed in his heterochromatic eyes. A circle of sharp icicles appeared around him, shooting out in all directions like bullets. Trees and rocks were directly pierced through by the icicles. There were even a few trees that weren't that thick and strong that collapsed. Lin Yuan, logically speaking, he originally wanted to make something similar to an ice ring and push it around. Even if that thing could not be seen, it must be dodged. And that moment was when Lin Yuan locked on to its position, and then he could determine the direction of the other party's movement through sound. But the water attribute spiritual energy in the demon ghost was too little. Even if he tried his best, he could only gather so much water element. Then, he turned it into icicles and shot it out. But compared to the ice ring that had no blind spots, there were too many ways to dodge the icicles. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The strange sound was heard again. This time, Lin Yuan could easily tell that the damn thing was right beside him. And it seemed to want to humiliate him. The other party didn't attack immediately. Instead, it kept circling around him. The system didn't give any prompt. What was this thing? Lin Yuan's eyes flashed with a hint of seriousness. After carefully identifying the other party's direction, Lin Yuan swung his tail and immediately attacked after predicting the other party's position. Even if he missed this time, his speed would definitely be faster than his opponent's. With this kind of movement speed, it was impossible for his opponent to stop immediately. He would probably collide directly with his snake tail. At that time, he would only need to shrink his body and directly entangle his opponent, not allowing him to escape his control. However, the strange sound continued to ring out. The other party was still moving around him at high speed, but it did not hit his tail. It was as if it did not have a physical body at all. Could it really be a ghost? Lin Yuan's face gradually twisted. Fear often came from the unknown. Even when facing an existence of the desolate demon realm, Lin Yuan had never panicked. But at this moment he was facing an opponent that he could only hear but not see or touch. Lin Yuan couldn't help but feel a sense of fear from the bottom of his heart. But suddenly, Lin Yuan felt a weight on the top of his head. He raised his head and happened to see a black eagle whose fur seemed to have merged with the darkness flying over. The black eagle opened its beak and let out the strange sound that Lin Yuan had heard before. It turned out that he could not see his opponent because his opponent was circling high in the sky. The rustling sound from before was not some kind of object walking over the grass, but the cry of this black eagle. From the beginning, he had fallen into the rhythm of this feathered beast. This caused him to fall into the opponent's rhythm step by step. Until now, when the opponent had entered the best attack range, it used a playful attitude to remind Lin Yuan of its true location. Boom! In his mind, something seemed to have exploded. Lin Yuan only felt his body shake. The pain that he imagined did not appear, but his vision turned black uncontrollably. Am I finished just like this? Lin Yuan muttered unwillingly. He had not reached the top of this world, had not found a way to return to his previous world. Despair and unwillingness filled Lin Yuan's heart. In the next moment, Lin Yuan had already lost consciousness. Am not dead? Lin Yuan opened his eyes again. In front of him was a void of darkness. There seemed to be some weak light source far away. Lin Yuan did not know exactly how far away, but he had a premonition that he was still in danger. This made Lin Yuan feel even more anxious. He twisted his body and began to walk in the direction of the light source. In the darkness where he could not see his surroundings, Lin Yuan felt as if he was in a passageway. Moreover, the passageway was somewhat narrow. As he wriggled forward, he would occasionally feel his scales touching the cold rock walls. The passageway should be downward. Lin Yuan guessed that the black eagle should not have been hungry at that time. It should have just knocked him out and tried to bring him back to its nest as a food reserve. In the process of his unconscious struggle, he fell into this passageway. The black eagle's body was larger than Lin Yuan after he shrunk, so it should not have been able to enter. It could only let Lin Yuan slide into the passageway. However, this passageway was too narrow. Lin Yuan had no way to turn back. He was also not sure if he could leave this narrow passageway by turning back. He was also not sure if the black eagle was still guarding outside the passageway. Therefore, he could only maintain his downward trend and slide towards the weak light source in the distance. Of course, Lin Yuan was not sure if his guess was correct. He was also not sure if the light source in front of him would be safer than the passageway he was currently in. After all, it was common knowledge that the claws of the eagle-type demonic beasts were extremely powerful. Even if he was conscious, he might not be able to break free, let alone unconsciously. Moreover, after falling from a high altitude, it was impossible for him to be unscathed. In addition, he just happened to fall into a passageway that the black eagle could not enter. This matter sounded like a fantasy no matter how one looked at it. After all, this was a real world. Lin Yuan did not believe that he was the kind of existence that would not die no matter what he did. Perhaps it was that black eagle that stuffed him into this passageway? Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes flickered with a faint light. He took a deep breath and faintly sensed that something was wrong. This kind of underground cave was generally incomparably damp, but every breath he took was extremely dry. Moreover, there was not even a trace of moss-like plants in the passageway. This situation indicated that at the light source in the distance, there was either a very powerful fire-type demonic beast, or there was an incredible fire-type spiritual creature here. Chapter 201. If it was a fire-type spiritual object, would there be a fire-type monster guarding it? Lin Yuan's heart tightened, and he subconsciously wanted to retreat. After all, although the Black Hawk was not easy to deal with, he had figured out the way the Black Hawk moved in an open environment. He might not be unable to fight it. However, if he were to come to this narrow underground environment to deal with a fire-type monster that might be very powerful, this kind of behavior was tantamount to courting death. His water and ice attributes were not stronger than his fire attribute, but in this environment, the fire attribute was definitely more advantageous. In addition, this tunnel was extremely narrow, and the underground space was not necessarily wide. He might only be able to maintain this shrunken form to fight with the unknown enemy. As a result, he could not exert his strength as a python. However, the moment Lin Yuan retreated, he suddenly felt that his escape route was blocked. Although he could not turn back, he could still feel that the place he had just slid had become a cold rock wall. Something was blocking his path of retreat. This narrow tunnel became more and more strange in Lin Yuan's eyes. Perhaps he was really stuffed into this tunnel by the Black Hawk, and its purpose was to force him to the place where the light source was. Although he did not know why the Black Hawk did this, Lin Yuan instinctively felt that this Black Hawk was up to no good. Lin Yuan was silent for a moment and stopped himself from sliding forward. Then he heard a faintly discernible roar in his ears. It sounded like the sound of the wind passing through the tunnel, but it also sounded like the roar of some kind of demonic beast. Lin Yuan was inclined to the latter because he could clearly hear a hint of threat from the other party's roar. The other party might not be very powerful, but the situation where his escape route was blocked had already proved that the other party had the ability to control rocks or soil. If he really stopped moving forward, the other party did not even need to show up. It could directly control the tunnel on both sides to close and crush him directly. He took a deep breath. Lin Yuan slid forward once again. When he moved forward about 100 m, Lin Yuan tried to move back once again. He found that his way was blocked once again. At the same time, he heard a faintly discernible roar. It was clear that the person who controlled the soil had always been by his side, seemingly intending to supervise him until he reached the light source. Once he stopped moving forward, the other party would control the tunnel and crush him to death. Even if the tunnel couldn't break his scales, even if it could trap him to death, he couldn't live without food for the rest of his life, right? Although this world also had a cultivation system, the legendary Inedia was not real. In this world, if the demon beasts or humans wanted to increase their cultivation speed, they would have to devour a large amount of flesh and spirit items and convert them into their own energy. Lin Yuan could still endure not eating or drinking for a day or two, but if he didn't eat or drink for a week, Lin Yuan would starve to death. Even if he was a cheater with the system, he couldn't possibly use his war points and attribute points to exchange for food and water, right? Even if he wanted to do that, the system had to have this function, right? After crawling for another 500 meters, Lin Yuan's mentality was almost broken down by the endless darkness and the sound of scales scraping against the rock wall. This feeling of not being able to see his opponent and constantly being threatened to move forward was really torturous. Stupid system, come out? Lin Yuan thought for a moment and decided to summon the system. After all, at this time, the system could not help him. Even if it could talk to him and relieve his psychological pressure, it would be good. The system broadcast a string of ellipses in Lin Yuan's mind. Do you know what the light source is in front of me and what the thing behind me is? Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly and took the initiative to ask with his mind. The host is unable to see the target. Scan failed. The host does not have a map scanning tool. Scan failed. The system maintained its usual concise and efficient manner and directly gave Lin Yuan a negative answer. This dark tunnel became increasingly strange in Lin Yuan's eyes. He had crawled for at least 600 meters, but the light source in the distance was still so weak. There was no change at all. It was as if Lin Yuan had been walking in the same place all this time. This tunnel did not have any turns at all. It was a straight line diagonally downward. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not think that he had encountered something like a ghost going around in circles. In fact, he had been walking in circles and had not moved forward at all. So, in fact, the weak light source was also moving? Because if he did not keep moving closer, the weak light source would disappear. Was this the reason why the monster behind him, which could only control the tunnel, had been urging him to move forward? Thinking of this, Lin Yuan flicked his tongue, and his speed suddenly skyrocketed. Like an arrow leaving the bow, he leaped toward the faint light source in the distance. The black scales even rubbed against the stone walls on both sides of the tunnel, creating a large string of sparks. Although this degree of friction was not enough to hurt Lin Yuan, it still brought him a sense of discomfort. Ho! Moo! As his speed increased, the light source was indeed much closer. As his vision became brighter, a series of beastly roars suddenly sounded in Lin Yuan's ears. Almost every roar made Lin Yuan's heart tighten, because the owners of these beastly roars were not weak. Just the aftershock of the roars made his heart palpitate. So many wisdom, insight, and mountain lord level demon beasts had gathered here. What was the reason for this? Could it be that they were all captured by that black eagle? Lin Yuan admitted that the black eagle was very strong. Although that fellow had the advantage of a sneak attack, Lin Yuan did not think that he could defeat it in a one-on-one battle. However, to capture such a large number of monsters with just a black eagle was clearly a fool's dream. Ding! Large numbers of monsters have been detected ahead. Triggered mission, Great Luck. Mission name, Great Luck. Mission description, a large number of violent monsters have appeared in front of you. They have been trapped in this underground world for many years without freedom and have almost all lost their rationality. Regardless of whether it is to vent or for food, they will madly attack all living things in their sight. Host, please maintain your rationality and survive. Mission reward, 1 chance to draw a skill. Failure punishment, death. Lin Yuan? At this moment, Lin Yuan felt that the word danger had appeared above his head. Chapter 202. Being trapped here for so long that it lost its mind? Lin Yuan was slightly speechless. What kind of existence would capture these demon beasts, and what was their purpose? Lin Yuan remembered that in his previous life, there were some terrorist organizations overseas that liked to capture some innocent people for a great escape. Often, out of hundreds of people, only one would survive. In this world, there shouldn't be some demon beasts that had such a strange hobby, right? When the roar of the demon beast became clearer and clearer, Lin Yuan had already stopped. The demon beast that had been following behind him and urging him to move forward didn't seem to be following him. It should be afraid of the demon beasts that had been trapped here for so long. Therefore, after Lin Yuan entered its expected range, it didn't have any intention of following him. Roar! A roar exploded from the side of his ear. Lin Yuan's body trembled from head to toe. His figure suddenly swept to the side. Borrowing the light, he glanced at the demon beast that attacked him from the corner of his eyes. His heterochromatic pupils suddenly shrunk to the size of a needle. Hong Luo tiger. In the early years, it was a well-known demon beast tribe in the periphery of the Hengduan Mountains. Its flesh was extremely nutritious, especially suitable for human cultivators who practiced martial arts. Its effect was at least 40% better than other demon beasts of the same level. It was precisely because of this reason that the Hong Luo tiger was crazily hunted by human demon slayers. From a huge tribe, it was reduced to a rare sight today. Even the three-eyed ape once thought that the Hong Luo tiger had already become extinct. Lin Yuan really didn't expect that the demon beast that he had only seen once in the three-eyed ape's literature would actually appear in this underground world created by some unknown existence. However, although this red cluster tiger shocked Lin Yuan for a moment, he didn't feel much pressure in his heart. After all, it was only a rank 3 intelligent demonic beast. Even if it had been a rank 3 demonic beast for a long time, its attributes wouldn't be much higher than Lin Yuan's. In addition, this fellow didn't have any intelligence, so Lin Yuan didn't think that this red cluster tiger could do anything to him. After dodging the red cluster tiger's attack, Lin Yuan did not immediately counterattack. Instead, he used the light to observe his surroundings. Although it was unwise to be distracted in battle, compared to the red cluster tiger, which was not much of a threat, Lin Yuan was more concerned about whether there were other Yao beasts lurking in the dark, waiting to ambush him. The surroundings were still monotonous with black rock walls as the base. Other than the light coming from some unknown object in the distance, there wasn't even a single plant in sight. However, the ecological chain still existed in this place. Low-level demonic beasts like the red cluster tiger could only stand in the outermost area of the light. They could vaguely see things with the help of the faint light, but it was similar to the streets under the moonlight, hazy. The closer they were to the light, the higher the level of the demonic beasts. Lin Yuan could understand this situation. After all, he had felt a sense of oppression in the empty, deathly silent darkness. If he stayed in the darkness for a long time, even if his will was as strong as steel, he would still inevitably go crazy. Therefore, moving in the light could give these demonic beasts a sense of security. An existence like the red cluster tiger might not be considered top-notch in the outer area of the Hengduan mountain range, but it was definitely in existence at the upper level of the food chain. However, in this environment where intelligent demonic beasts and mountain lords were mixed together, it could only be the weakest of the weakest, muddling along in the outermost area. While he was in a daze, Lin Yuan suddenly felt the area around him darken once more. The faint light from before had quietly moved forward a little. Just as he had speculated, the light was really moving. When the darkness enveloped Lin Yuan, the red cluster tiger was slightly startled. It actually did not hesitate for a moment, directly giving up on the idea of continuing to attack Lin Yuan. It turned around and moved in the direction of the light, as if there was something terrifying in the darkness. Even if it had to give up on a delicious meal like Lin Yuan, it did not dare to cross the line in the slightest. Looking at the skinny red cluster tiger in front of him, Lin Yuan could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Although this red cluster tiger still retained its basic ability to move, Lin Yuan could tell that it was not far from starving to death. Perhaps in another day or two, this red cluster tiger might not even have the strength to hunt. When that time came, this red cluster tiger would still be on the verge of death from hunger, and then collapse where it had been before until it was completely swallowed by the darkness. Lin Yuan suddenly raised his head and felt a chill crawl up his back. The demon ghost was a life-forbidden zone that had existed for many years. The red cluster tiger in front of him should have been caught and brought to this place a long time ago. After so many years, the red cluster tiger, whose growth limit was not high, had finally been reduced to a little brother of a little brother. However, before that, there were definitely many demonic beasts that were even weaker than the red cluster tiger that lived here. Otherwise, the intelligence level 3 red cluster tiger would have starved to death long ago, and would not have been able to live until today. However, he had walked all the way here from that tunnel, and actually did not find any demonic beast skeletons. This was very frightening for a battlefield where all kinds of demonic beasts were fighting. After all, not all demonic beasts were like snake-type demonic beasts, directly swallowing the skin and bones when they ate and slowly digesting them. After all, demonic beast skeletons that fell into the hands of humans could even be forged into weapons that could easily kill other demonic beasts, as weapons for invasion or defense. Therefore, there were no demonic beasts that liked to gnaw on the bones of other demonic beasts. At most, they would just suck off the flesh and blood on those bones. Then, here came the question. Where were the skeletons of those dead demonic beasts? Thinking of this, Lin Yuan shivered. He did not dare to continue staying in this unknown darkness, and once again picked up his speed and jumped into the light ahead. Seeing that Lin Yuan had once again entered its territory, the red cluster tiger's eyes slightly brightened and once again pounced towards Lin Yuan. Although it had previously given up on attacking Lin Yuan, that was only because it was afraid of the darkness. It did not mean that it was really not interested in Lin Yuan. Now that Lin Yuan had once again returned to the safe zone, it no longer had any scruples. After all, demonic beasts that came from the outside were not common, and demonic beasts that had a lower cultivation than it were even rarer. If he missed this delicious meal, he might really starve to death. Still want to eat me? You're courting death. Lin Yuan issued a series of warning snake hisses, but the red cluster tiger did not seem to understand at all. It gritted its teeth and pounced towards Lin Yuan again. Lin Yuan very naturally turned sideways, and his black snake tail suddenly lashed out like a steel whip on the red cluster tiger's body, directly sending this starving, emaciated and dying demonic beast flying. Without waiting for the red cluster tiger to land, Lin Yuan jumped out again, rapidly approaching the red cluster tiger. Chapter 203. The snake's body coiled around the red cluster tiger's body in midair. Lin Yuan slowly landed on the ground and glanced at the demonic beasts in the surroundings. Although these demonic beasts didn't have any intelligence and were all staring at Lin Yuan with covetous eyes like the red cluster tiger, they didn't seem to have any intention of moving. They just moved slowly along with the light source and didn't seem to have any intention of attacking Lin Yuan. Can you understand what I'm saying? Lin Yuan's shrunken snake body wasn't very big. It could only coil around the red cluster tiger's waist. However, the red cluster tiger didn't have the ability to break free from Lin Yuan's grasp. It could only roar anxiously, but it couldn't do anything to Lin Yuan. They still have some emotions, but they've lost the ability to communicate. Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes dimmed slightly as he recorded the first characteristic of the demonic beasts in this place. He didn't want to be trapped in this damned place for a long time. Even if he could chat with the system from time to time, he would go crazy sooner or later. However, he was still a newcomer after all. He could only see some superficial problems, but he still didn't know the answers to any of the core questions. For example, were the Mountain Lord demonic beasts the same? They only had the most basic emotions but lost the ability to communicate. Or were the Mountain Lord demonic beasts more intelligent than the demonic beasts and could communicate for a short period of time? Also, what was this light source that kept moving forward? What kind of existence was that strange darkness behind him? This underground world that he didn't know what kind of existence had constructed was filled with a strange aura from beginning to end. It had clearly caused all the demonic beasts to fall into despair, but it had created a light source to give them hope. If he couldn't talk to the demonic beasts in this place, he naturally wouldn't be able to get the answers to these questions. Finding the exit on his own was probably a pipe dream. Lin Yuan was now certain that even if he could recognize the path he came from in the darkness, the tunnel would probably have disappeared completely. However, this underground world definitely wasn't completely sealed off. Otherwise, with so many demonic beasts living here, they would have all suffocated to death from lack of oxygen. Forget it, you're worthless now. Lin Yuan glanced at the Hongluo tiger that he had entangled. His heart did not waver at all. He directly killed the Hongluo tiger that had been lusting after his body. He looked around and said loudly, "I'm not hungry at all. Who wants this corpse?" As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding beasts roared again. Ding! Congratulations to the host. You have successfully killed the level 3 Wisdom Insight demonic beast, Hongluo tiger. You have gained 1 attribute point. The demonic beasts that were so hungry that their eyes almost emitted green light stood up one after another and roared at Lin Yuan. Just because Lin Yuan wasn't hungry didn't mean that they weren't hungry. Although that red sieve tiger was a little brother among brothers, weren't these demonic beasts not far from it also a little brother among brothers? Therefore, these guys were completely at the stage of waiting for death. She can understand me, but she can't speak, and her temper is very bad. After Lin Yuan casually threw the Hongluo tiger's corpse out and observed for a while, he quickly came to a new conclusion. These demonic beasts were all drooling over the Hongluo tiger's corpse, but none of them opened their mouths. Whether it was communicating in the common language or telepathic communication, they didn't interact with Lin Yuan. They just kept roaring at Lin Yuan, hoping that this new black snake would notice them and give this precious food to them. When Lin Yuan threw the Hongluo tiger's corpse out, he deliberately used a bit of skill, so the Hongluo tiger's corpse just happened to fall into the buffer zone between the 4 demonic beasts. These 4 demonic beasts didn't hesitate at all and directly rushed to the buffer zone to fight over the Hongluo tiger's corpse. As they fought, the eyes of the 4 demonic beasts were already red with bloodlust. All of them attacked the enemies in front of them crazily. They were even no longer interested in the Hongluo tiger's corpse. They just wanted to kill these annoying guys in front of them. Well, I found something else. Although the demonic beasts here have lost their ability to communicate, they still have some rationality. However, they only have rationality when they are alone. Once they get close to each other, they will quickly become violent and violent. They won't calm down until they kill all the enemies in front of them. Lin Yuan was still analyzing these demonic beasts. At first, he thought that the demonic beasts here maintained a certain distance from each other because they retained the habit of demarcating their own territories for themselves. Therefore, each demonic beast had its own territory. But now, it seemed that this wasn't the case. These demonic beasts maintained a certain distance from each other to maintain their rationality. There was no need to rush up and fight to the death when they saw all creatures. Roar. A somewhat puzzled roar sounded. Lin Yuan also followed his line of sight and looked over. He saw a snake man. Yes, a snake man. It was similar to the Naga, Medusa, and other creatures in the legends of his previous life. Lin Yuan saw that the lower half of the body was still a snake tail that dragged on the ground. The upper half of the body was humanoid, but its appearance was very different from a human's. Its head was the head of a viper, and its skin was dark green. In addition, this snake man also had 3 pairs of arms. It's so King ugly. Lin Yuan subconsciously cursed. He suddenly remembered that when he had just opened the system, the skill that he had drawn was the mutation skill. The system had even fooled him that if he chose the skill, he might even become a dragon whelp directly. If he had to choose the mutation skill one day, Lin Yuan wouldn't dream of becoming a dragon whelp. But as long as he didn't become something like this snake man in front of him, Lin Yuan would be satisfied. After all, calling this thing ugly was a bit of an insult to the word ugly. The snake man sized up Lin Yuan. As if it understood what Lin Yuan said, it immediately let out a wild roar and charged towards Lin Yuan. At this moment, Lin Yuan's expression suddenly became serious. The muscles in his body began to tighten, and he was ready to attack the snake man at any time. After all, this fellow wasn't in existence that could be casually crushed like the red Civ tiger. This fellow's strength was even close to that of an intelligence realm level 6. In the weak light source area where the average strength was only intelligence realm level 3, it was definitely worthy of being called an overlord level demonic beast. Facing such a powerful demonic beast, Lin Yuan didn't dare to be careless. Thorny Whip. The system skill was used decisively. A trace of coldness flashed across Lin Yuan's face. Since the other party had already revealed its hostility, then there was nothing more to say. Let's test this fellow's strength first. If he really couldn't beat it, then he would first escape into the darkness and find an opportunity to get back at it. Chapter 10. Sending it to you in advance. Requesting for a guaranteed monthly pass in August, which is tomorrow. Thank you, all members have a guaranteed monthly pass for free. A guaranteed minimum of 3 updates a day. Every 20 monthly passes will add 1 update. Thank you. Chapter 204. This area was filled with slaughter. To other monsters, it might be a hellish place. But for someone like Lin Yuan who could obtain attribute points from killing monsters, he was like a fish in water in this land of slaughter. As long as Lin Yuan was willing, his strength could rapidly increase here. As for the so-called guilt, that was a joke. These monsters that didn't have the ability to communicate and didn't even have much intelligence. Once they got close, they would violently attack. Weren't they just monsters that provided him with experience? Could it be that you would feel guilty if you killed a few monsters in a game? The Snake Man clearly didn't expect Lin Yuan, a mere level 3 Wisdom Realm monster, to dare challenge his dignity. He immediately let out an angry roar and his 6 arms swung forward at the same time, fiercely smashing towards Lin Yuan's snake tail. Boom! The 2 huge forces collided. Lin Yuan slid back about 3 meters. His heterochromatic eyes flashed with killing intent. If it wasn't for the headless horseman summoned by Huazhu Dao, his golden body technique wouldn't have been broken. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been at a disadvantage. But now, his snake tail was badly mutilated. The opponent's punch was quite frightening. Lin Yuan wasn't having a good time, but the Snake Man wasn't having a good time either. After all, the Thorny Whip skill, in addition to Lin Yuan's own attack, also added true damage. This was damage that couldn't be blocked by any defense. So at this moment, the Snake Man's 6 fists were all split open. Drops of green blood flowed out from his wounds. The Snake Man's eyes flashed with shock. He clearly didn't expect this newcomer to be so troublesome. Hiss! The Snake Man hissed a few times and quickly retreated. But following the terrifying call, the surrounding monsters all bared their teeth and surrounded Lin Yuan. They seemed to want to gang up on him. Interesting, there's actually a Beast King here. Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes flashed with light. The demonic beasts in this place don't seem to have the ability to communicate with each other, but they seem to be able to communicate with each other through simple beast roars. The demonic beasts, who were like scattered sand before, gathered under the call of the Snake Man, which immediately brought a lot of pressure to Lin Yuan. He was not afraid of this group of crooked melons and cracked dates. After all, a group of hungry and skinny demonic beasts, even if they had the strength, could not pose a big threat to him. The only thing worthy of his fear was the Snake Man. Among the summoned demonic beasts, he quickly disappeared into the area that Lin Yuan could not see. He obviously did not intend to fight with Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan was not sure whether the Snake Man could maintain his rationality in contact with other beasts. It may also be because the Snake Man's cultivation was relatively high, so he could maintain his rationality for a period of time. It was precisely because of this that he did not dare to continue to contact Lin Yuan. He could only let these beasts come over and drag Lin Yuan away while he slipped away. Run, run. This way, the hunt will be more interesting. Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes. His body coiled up as he stared at the monsters surrounding him. He didn't have the slightest intention of retreating. With over 100 points of defense, Lin Yuan was definitely an invincible existence among the Wisdom Stage Level 3 monsters that only had 200 points of defense. After all, not all monsters were like him, who could manually add points. Other creatures added points according to their race's talent and training direction. Therefore, at this stage, there wasn't an existence that had an attack power over 100 points. Even if there was, this group of starving monsters wouldn't be able to display their peak strength. In the next moment, without waiting for the red-eyed monsters to attack, Lin Yuan had already killed his way into the monster horde. The snake tail, venomous fangs, and the occasional ice cones had become a nightmare for these beasts. In an instant, Lin Yuan directly activated the unparalleled mode, and the beasts fell to the ground one after another. Ding! Congratulations to the host! You have killed the Wisdom Stage Level 3 monster, Rock Lizard. You have received 1 attribute point. Ding! Congratulations to the host. You have killed the Wisdom Stage Level 3 monster, Mystic Python. You have received 1 attribute point. Ding! Congratulations to the host. You have killed the Wisdom Stage Level 3 monster, Silver Light Frog. You have received 1 attribute point. The system prompt had not yet disappeared when the next system prompt appeared. Although killing these demonic beasts in a weakened state was not difficult at all, so the system only gave some guaranteed rewards. However, there were too many demonic beasts, and the free attribute points held by Lin Yuan were also jumping crazily. Host, Lin Yuan status, Sky-Piercing Black Python, transforming into a Flood Dragon, Realm, 14/20th speed, 70 defense, 100 plus 20 attack, 80 monster power, 502 assignable attribute points, 13 skills, 1. Death Coil, 298 of 300, 2. Poison of the Poisoned Wine, 191/300, 3. Bramble Whip, 15 to 300, 4. Blood Boil Technique, 7 out of 100, 5. All things have spirit, can be used to communicate with living creatures. Cannot advance. Glancing at his own attribute panel, Lin Yuan took a deep breath. He looked around and found that there was nothing else besides the monster corpses scattered all over the place. The monsters that had gathered together before had all been turned into Lin Yuan's nutrients. Ever since he awakened the proficiency model, this was the first time Lin Yuan had leveled up so quickly. If he didn't consider increasing his skill proficiency and just added all his attribute points to himself, he might have already become a mountain lord. It was just that Lin Yuan hadn't done so. After all, there was definitely a gap between mountain lord monsters. It was just like how dragon bloodline monsters usually had stronger innate abilities than ordinary monsters. There were already signs of this at the Wisdom Realm. The Mountain Lord realm, and even higher realms, would depend on one's own abilities. Lin Yuan didn't want to become the weakest Mountain Lord after reaching the Mountain Lord realm. Therefore, compared to attribute points, he preferred to increase his skill proficiency and increase his strength from another direction. However, this kind of growth method was suitable for the outside world, but not for this land of slaughter. None of the monsters that lived here could speak. If there was a disagreement, they would immediately attack. If Lin Yuan didn't have a high enough realm, he might not even be able to explore the depths of the Land of Light, let alone find a way to leave this place. After thinking for a moment, Lin Yuan added 3 attribute points to his innate ability, olfactory imaging. In an instant, the original detection range of 500 meters was directly increased to 4,000 meters. Although he couldn't detect things in the darkness, it was obviously useful in the Land of Light. There was no other creature within 4,000 meters of him. He had just slaughtered a wave of monsters with unparalleled. Was it that terrifying? Chapter 205. However, that snake man ran really fast. It didn't even hesitate for a moment and directly slipped away to a place 4,000 meters away. This kind of behavior of running away immediately after finding a troublesome target didn't seem to fit the style of the demonic beasts in the Land of Massacre. Unless, compared to fighting Lin Yuan, it had more important things to do. The snake man obviously retained a certain degree of intelligence and had the ability to control these demonic beasts. Then, Lin Yuan guessed that there might be even more powerful demonic beasts above the snake man. The snake man left in a hurry to report to the higher-ups that a troublesome foreign demonic beast had appeared. Taking a deep breath, Lin Yuan activated his olfactory imaging skill and started a carpet search around the outer area. All the demonic beasts discovered by Lin Yuan were all killed on the spot and turned into attribute points on Lin Yuan's panel. If this was the outside world, Lin Yuan's actions might have caused the demonic beast here to surround and kill him. After all, his actions were undoubtedly taboo. Demonic beasts hadn't appeared in the ghost's domain for many years. Occasionally, some demonic beasts or humans would come here looking for spiritual items. Therefore, it was very difficult for this underground world to replenish fresh blood. Every demonic beast had to control their appetite to avoid starving to death here. An existence like Lin Yuan, who only killed for the sake of killing, in the eyes of these demonic beasts, was completely cutting off their path of survival. However, the demonic beasts in the outer area obviously couldn't control their emotions. Not to mention surrounding and killing Lin Yuan. If they were too close, they would lose their rationality. When the time came, they wouldn't give up until a life and death was determined. And the demonic beasts closer to the light source didn't seem to want to leave their territory. It seemed like they would rather starve to death than go near the darkness. After the last Wisdom Stage Level 3 demonic beast was killed by Lin Yuan turned his head with a trace of doubt in his eyes. It walked all the way from the darkness and even entered the darkness when the light source moved, but he didn't notice anything. However, it didn't make sense for these demonic beasts to be unwilling to go near the darkness purely because they were tortured to the point of collapse in the darkness. Compared to the psychological pressure for a period of time, leaving this place was the most important thing. What if the exit was in the darkness? Lin Yuan didn't believe that after so many years of existence, these captured demonic beasts had never tried to leave. After walking around the periphery of the light source, Lin Yuan confirmed that there was no prey. Then he looked up at the center of the light source. The first feeling he had was that it was dazzling, as if there was a ball of fire burning in front of his eyes, and he once again felt the strong fire attribute aura from before. Demonic beast? Spiritual object? Lin Yuan didn't dare to make wild guesses. After all, Fays couldn't move on their own. However, Lin Yuan didn't believe that the one emitting the light was a Fey beast. After all, to be able to emit such a level of light, even if it was activated by itself, it was definitely not an ordinary creature. Perhaps the beast Lord Kirin in the depths of the Hengduan Mountains was at this level? Hisses. 2 long hisses sounded. Lin Yuan turned his head with some doubt, just in time to see the 6-armed Naga from before appear once again. However, this time, the 6-armed Naga was clearly much more vigilant. It didn't immediately approach Lin Yuan, nor did it emit any hostility. After seeing Lin Yuan look at it, the 6-armed Naga stretched out a hand and beckoned at Lin Yuan, indicating that Lin Yuan should follow it. A bit interesting. Lin Yuan smiled slightly, and without the slightest hesitation, he followed the pace of the 6-armed snake man. He wasn't afraid of this 6-armed Naga causing trouble, such as preparing a trap or something. After all, he was now a rank 4 Wisdom Realm demonic beast. As long as he activated the blood boil technique, he would be able to instantly kill this 6-armed Naga. However, from the looks of it, the 6-armed Naga had probably already reported his existence to a powerful existence, so it wanted to meet him. This was exactly what Lin Yuan wanted. He just happened to want to find an existence that he could communicate with and ask about the situation in this underground world. The 6-armed Naga led the way in front, and Lin Yuan followed closely behind. The two maintained a distance of 500 meters between them. All the demonic beasts they encountered along the way looked at Lin Yuan with vigilance, but none of them dared to provoke him. They only coldly sized him up. Finally, the 6-armed Naga slowly came to a stop and pointed at a palace in front of it. Yes, it was a palace. It was similar to the style of a human palace, but it wasn't built on the ground. This palace was built on the shell of a turtle-type demonic beast that Lin Yuan had never seen before. The shell was flat, and there were almost no protrusions. It should be a turtle-type creature, but the exposed skin of this demonic beast was blood red. It was extremely different from the black and green turtle-type demonic beasts. A water snake with extremely pure dragon blood in its body. Interesting. Oh, with the body of a demonic beast, it actually practiced a cross-training method. Amazing, amazing. Suddenly, a muffled sound rang out. Lin Yuan looked towards the direction of the voice, and a trace of surprise flashed across his face. Because in that palace, a white-haired old man wrapped in beast skin slowly walked to the edge of the shell. With just a glance at Lin Yuan, he saw through Lin Yuan's hidden details. Not to mention anything else, just this insight was already very terrifying. Senior is... Towards a human old man that he couldn't see through, Lin Yuan still maintained a bit of respect on his face. After all, this guy was able to mix with a group of demonic beasts, and it seemed like his status wasn't low. His own strength couldn't be too low. This old man is Zhu Xinghai. The old man stretched out his hand to stroke his beard, and said with a smile, "I heard from 6-Arm that you just came from outside? Let me ask you, can my Zhu clan take back the throne and re-establish the Myriad Swords dynasty?" Zhu Xinghai? Lin Yuan didn't listen carefully to the old man's words, and silently repeated this name in his heart. In his eyes, a ray of light suddenly bloomed. This old man was actually the last emperor of the Myriad Swords dynasty, and also the only Emperor Sun among the 7 dynasties. He was personally pulled down from the throne by General Lei Qiusheng, who he relied heavily on back then. If this Emperor Sun didn't have a very good relationship with the Hengduan mountain range during his reign, plus the time when the Beast Lord Kirin was active, perhaps the entire Jiao clan would have been wiped out by the founding emperor of the Shenwu dynasty, Lei Qiusheng. Then today's Shenwu dynasty should also be flourishing and wouldn't end up in a situation where the imperial family and the Jiao clan's remnants were tangled in a death struggle. Of course, the current tension between the 7 dynasties was also because of Lei Qiusheng's usurpation of the throne, which was equivalent to the destruction of one of the 7 dynasties. This caused some people to become restless. It's the 8th month, a new month. If you feel good reading, please help to cast a free guaranteed monthly vote. This will be helpful to the book's results. Thank you very much. In the new month, every 20 monthly votes will be added. Thank you. Chapter 206. Back then, Jiao Xinghai's name was like thunder to everyone's ears. The 10,000 Swords dynasty under his rule was definitely in the top 3 of the 7 dynasties. Looking at the current Shenwu dynasty, there were 6 dynasties, Hengduan Mountain Range, and the dragon palaces of the 4 seas. Internally, there were also aristocratic families fighting for power. In the dark, there were still the remnants of the Jiao clan who had not given up on reviving their country. On one hand, they were fighting against the armies of the neighboring dynasties. On the other hand, they were still worrying about internal strife. It was already a good thing that the current Shenwu dynasty was not at the bottom of the 7 dynasties. However, after Jiao Xinghai was saved by the beast lord Kirin and brought into the Hengduan mountain range, he had never heard of this person's existence. Who would have thought that he would actually meet him in this strange underground world? Little black snake, this emperor is asking you a question. Seeing that Lin Yuan was silent, Jiao Xinghai could not help but reveal an irritable expression. Seeing this scene, Lin Yuan was even more certain that this old man was Jiao Xinghai. After all, according to the Three-Eyed Ape's records, this Emperor Sun was quite capable during his reign. He managed the 10,000 Swords dynasty well. However, his temper was too irritable. If there was something that did not go his way, even if it was an important official in the dynasty, he would easily kill their entire family. Otherwise, no matter how strong Lei Qiusheng was, without the support of those aristocratic families, he would not be able to drag Jiao Xinghai down from the throne. Does the great emperor think that someone from the Jiao clan is a match for Lei Qiusheng? Lin Yuan raised his snake head and stared at Jiao Xinghai with his heterochromatic eyes. Even the divine martial emperor of the Shenwu dynasty would not be able to make him lower his head, let alone this Emperor Sun who had already lost his power and was forced to work with demonic beasts in this underground world? Jiao Xinghai snorted and said coldly, "I knew it. You are all a bunch of trash." Without waiting for doomed Xinghai to finish his anger, Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes and asked, "I've already answered your question. Now, shouldn't you answer a question of mine?" The corner of Ji Xinghai's eyes twitched. Even though he was an emperor who had been usurped, he was still incomparably arrogant. If it was in the past, he would take the initiative to talk to a demonic beast. It was already an honor for that demonic beast. But right now, they were all prisoners. Although Ji Xinghai's temper was a little irritable, he wasn't stupid. Therefore, he didn't have the intention to shed all pretense of cordiality with Lin Yuan. He only nodded slightly, indicating for Lin Yuan to ask his question. What the hell is going on with this damned place? Lin Yuan paused for a moment and directly voiced the doubts in his heart. Before this, he was even prepared to fight against doomed Xinghai. He didn't think that this violent Emperor Sun would actually give him face. Who knows? I don't even remember how long I've been here. It's just that this place is very strange. I'm a Heaven Dipper realm expert with a lifespan of close to 800 years. Until the moment before my life ends, I will experience the 5 decay of heaven and man until I become a corpse. Although I don't know how long I've been here, it definitely doesn't exceed 30 years. But I can feel my life force slipping away every day. It's as if something is devouring my lifespan. Only by staying in the bright places here can the speed of my life force slipping away be slowed down. Once this lonely one steps into a place shrouded in darkness, this lonely one's lifespan will quickly drain away. Don't look at how old this lonely one looks right now. This lonely one isn't even 80 years old this year. However, after entering the darkness 3 times in a row to find a way out, this lonely one has less than 10 years of lifespan left. A trace of gloominess flashed past doomed Xinghai's eyes. Back then, Ji Xinghai was also an extremely powerful cultivator. He even broke through the upper limit of the previous emperors of the Myriad Swords dynasty and reached the Heaven Dipper realm. Moreover, Ji Xinghai was only 40-something years old that year. In the remaining 700 years, with his cultivation aptitude, it was not impossible for him to step into the even more profound Void realm. But a rebellion directly shattered doomed Xinghai's cultivation dream. It caused him to fall from being a genius that everyone looked up to being a prisoner with less than 10 years of lifespan. Lin Yuan was also secretly shocked. If the same thing happened to him, he might have already gone crazy. But doomed Xinghai was still able to maintain his rationality. And from the matter of meeting Lin Yuan, he still hadn't given up hope of leaving this place. Little black snake, you're very special. So this emperor believes that you might be able to find a way out. Doomed Xinghai waved his hand and said in a deep voice, this emperor's palace is right here. If there's anything you need help with, feel free to find this emperor. As long as it's within this emperor's power, this emperor will definitely help you. I only hope that after you find a way out, you can inform this emperor. I'm special? Why do you say that? Lin Yuan's eyes revealed a trace of doubt. There were definitely many experts here. After all, the place where doomed Xinghai lived was only in the middle of the light source area. There might be even stronger humans or monsters in the depths. But doomed Xinghai didn't seem to have any intention of cooperating with them. Instead, he summoned him, a monster that just came from the outside world. Moreover, he tried to lower his status as much as possible. If the three-eyed ape's records were true, then when he asked a question, doomed Xinghai might have already made his move. You're indeed very special. Although I don't know the reason, but all the monsters that enter this place will quickly become skinny and lose their strong physique. And for humans like me, my lifespan will quickly decrease and I will become an old man who doesn't have much time left to live. Or I will be like six-armed, becoming something that is neither human nor monster. Doomed Xinghai glanced at the six-armed snake man who was already about 400 meters away and sighed. Six-armed used to be called Wang Fei. He was one of my most loyal guards. If it wasn't for him risking his life to protect me, this emperor might not have been able to hold on until Beast Lord Kirin arrived. Unfortunately, the only one that accompanied this emperor into the Hengduan mountain range alive was Wang Fei. After mysteriously entering this underground world, Wang Fei quickly mutated from a human into a six-armed snake man. He didn't even allow this emperor to call him by his name. Furthermore, he called himself six-armed. Other than his loyalty to this emperor, he gave up on everything related to humans. Lin Yuan was speechless for a moment. He always thought that those skinny monsters were because they didn't have enough food. But now, it seemed that the strange darkness area had the ability to absorb the lifespan or physique of living things. Only the light source area that the darkness couldn't invade could slow down the speed of being devoured. The reason why he didn't find any monster corpses along the way should be because they were all devoured by the darkness outside. Today's third update is delivered. Chapter 207. Absorbing other people's things for one's own use. Although it was evil and strange, it wasn't rare. Many human cultivators had similar techniques. For example, the Lu clan's old ancestor cultivated a technique to devour demonic beasts' bloodline. But to turn a living human into a six-armed demonic snake, Lin Yuan had never heard of it before. Perhaps if he included the memories of his previous life, only life forms that survived the radiation would be affected by it. Their bodies would grow abnormal organs, but their original characteristics would still remain. Just like how humans wouldn't turn into animals, they would at most turn into monsters. This kind of species change wasn't caused by radiation. The reason why Yu Xinghai felt that he was special should be because he walked from the darkness to the light source. Perhaps it was because he didn't change at all. Therefore, Yu Xinghai felt that the darkness here wouldn't affect him. He lowered himself in hopes of obtaining the ability to be immune to the darkness. If this ability was Lin Yuan's own talent, Yu Xinghai would give up on his thoughts and hope that Lin Yuan would be able to find a way out of here and bring him out. Therefore, before he figured out the secret of his body, Yu Xinghai wouldn't fall out with him. That was why he said that as long as he needed it, he could come and find him. His goal was to interact with him more and see if he could find out the secret of him not being affected by the darkness. Black Snake, this emperor can see that you already have some thoughts. That's right, this emperor feels that you are special. It is exactly what you think. Your current appearance shouldn't have changed at all from when you came in. Therefore, this emperor guesses that the darkness outside shouldn't affect you. Yu Xinghai's eyes flashed with light as if he was contemplating something. Lin Yuan fell into deep thought. The demonic beasts here were all skinny and thin, this couldn't be faked. Moreover, the year Yu Xinghai was pulled down from the throne, he was indeed 100 years old. To a Heaven Dipper realm expert who had a lifespan of at least 800 years, it didn't make sense for him to be so old at such an age. Moreover, Lin Yuan really couldn't think of any reason why the other party would deceive him when they had already fallen to this point. When Lin Yuan woke up from his contemplation, he had already arrived at the edge of the light source area. As for Xie Xinghai, he was sitting on that blood-red turtle demon and was gradually moving further away. However, he did not open his mouth to interrupt Lin Yuan's contemplation. With a disbelieving mentality, Lin Yuan once again took the initiative to step into the darkness. It was still the same feeling as before. Everything was silent. Even if there was light in front of him, Lin Yuan couldn't see anything from his line of sight. Even his sense of smell couldn't detect anything. However, whether it was demonic beasts or cultivators, they could easily perceive the loss of blood and vitality in his body, but Lin Yuan didn't feel anything. The darkness here seemed to be unable to affect him at all. However, Lin Yuan couldn't figure out the reason behind this. It couldn't be that he was protected by an inexplicable force because he had the system, right? System, can you explain what's going on? Lin Yuan asked in a probing manner. The system was silent for a moment, but still slowly gave an answer. The host should have been thrown into a secondary plane from the main plane. According to the host's understanding from the previous world, it should be called Sumeru World or Sumeru Paradise. This underground world is attached to the main plane, but there shouldn't be any connection between the two. If you can't find a spatial node, you won't be able to leave this place. According to the host's previous thoughts, it is absolutely impossible to leave this place. However, Sumer worlds are usually very rare things. Without a certain amount of strength and resources, it is impossible to create them. It is basically impossible for them to form naturally. Therefore, every Sumer world is basically the tomb of an expert. What is stored inside is usually the inheritance of an expert, waiting for a fated person to enter the Sumer world to obtain it. According to the host's memory, the system guesses that this may be the real burial place of the Fire Kirin. However, the Fire Kirin seemed to be unwilling to die just like that, so it set up some kind of formation in its own Sumeru world to absorb the energy of the creatures that strayed into this place to nourish itself. Firstly, it can keep its corpse intact. Secondly, if there is enough energy, it can break through the boundary between life and death and resurrect again. After carefully reading the words given by the system in his mind, Lin Yuan was once again dumbfounded. This was the burial place of the Fire Kirin? But why was the Fire Kirin mentioned by the system and the Fire Kirin mentioned by Hua Sanyang two completely different things? Previously, when Hua Sanyang was in danger in that strange cave, if it were not for the Fire Kirin's scales, she might have been devoured by those monsters in the cave. If the Fire Kirin was really like what the system said, it would not let any living creature go unless, when Hua Sanyang was in danger in this damned place, it was not the Fire Kirin that saved her, but she chose to make a deal with the remnant consciousness of the Fire Kirin. After she left the Sumeru world, she would trick some monsters or humans into entering the Sumeru world to become nourishment for the Fire Kirin. Obviously, Lin Yuan was the unlucky one who was tricked into entering the Sumeru world. So, what do I have to do to leave this place? Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly. With the host's ability, it is very difficult to find the connecting passage between the Sumeru world and the main world by yourself, so it is almost impossible for the host to find the exit. The black fog outside also obscures the system's perception, so even if the host walked in front of the spatial node, the system would not be able to sense it. Therefore, the system suggests that the host first find the Fire Kirin's body and destroy it. Once the formation here loses its supply target, it will naturally become chaotic. It will take at most half a year, or at least 3 months, for the formation to collapse naturally, and the black fog outside will no longer exist. At that time, the system will naturally find the spatial node to leave the Sumeru world for the host. Lin Yuan sucked in a breath of cold air. The system analyzed that he could not find the way out of here, so it suggested that he destroy the fire Kirin's body. This seemed to be feasible. Feasible my ass. This system was indeed a scammer. Although Lin Yuan was not sure what the fire Kirin's body was, he was 80% sure that it had something to do with the light source here. The darkness outside could not penetrate the light source, but the humans and monsters in the light source were still being devoured. It was like boiling a frog in warm water. He was worried that these guys would be so exasperated that they would directly destroy the Kirin's body. If that happened, even if they killed all life here, the fire Kirin would not gain any benefits. This is a chapter with 20+ monthly votes. Chapter 208. If he wanted to destroy the remains of the fire Kirin, it would be the same as destroying the light source. Such an action would undoubtedly push him to the opposite side of all the creatures in the light source, and no one would choose to stand on his side. After all, Lin Yuan could not actively expose the existence of the system, so he could not produce evidence to prove that all of this was a conspiracy of the fire Kirin. The creatures here would not watch Lin Yuan destroy the light source because of a guess. After all, they could still struggle at death's door if they stayed here, but once they entered the dark area, they would soon die. Even a fierce and ruthless person like Du Xinghai was willing to gamble with his life, but the system also said that it would take at least 3 months to half a year for the formation here to collapse naturally. The creatures here were tortured to the brink of death, and only half of their lives were left. How many of them could survive such a long time in the dark? System, why can't the formation here affect me? Lin Yuan pondered for a moment, then communicated with the system through his mind. If he could find this life-devouring formation that did not affect him, he might be able to replicate it. In this way, not only would he not have to be enemies with all the creatures in the light source, but he would also be able to obtain their help. After all, the fire Kirin was still not obedient after its death. Judging from the fact that it had released Hua Sanyang, the Black Eagle, and the demon beast that had been monitoring his progress, this fire Kirin still retained a certain level of consciousness. If he wanted to destroy its remains, he would have to go through it first. How could the host ask such a question? Although the system is an infinite evolution system, the attribute points that the host obtains from killing the demon beasts are also a kind of devouring ability. The system only refines the essence of the demon beasts into attribute points for the host to absorb, so as to achieve the effect of rapidly increasing the host's strength. Does the host think that the formation set up by a small fire Kirin can be compared to the crystallization of the wisdom of thousands of worlds? In terms of devouring ability, even if I let it study it for another 100 years, it won't be able to touch the host at all. With a simple question, the system once again revealed its true nature. It was arrogant, proud, and sharp-tongued. The difficulties that Lin Yuan found difficult to overcome were nothing more than a joke in the eyes of the system. Even an existence like the fire Kirin was nothing more than an ant in the eyes of the system. The system's reply made Lin Yuan feel slightly relieved. After all, with the protection of the system, even if he died of thirst or starvation, the fire Kirin would not use him as nourishment for his own resurrection. Therefore, he still had plenty of time to prepare. However, the system's reply also pushed Lin Yuan to the position of being the enemy of all life in the light source. Lin Yuan wanted to go out, and they also wanted to go out, but the price of going out was their lives. Lin Yuan lowered his head and pondered for a moment. When he raised his head again, his heterochromatic eyes were already flashing with a cold light. Anyway, these life forms in the light source would die sooner or later. Instead of becoming nourishment for the fire Kirin's resurrection, they might as well become Lin Yuan's attribute points to become stronger. When Lin Yuan destroyed the fire Kirin's corpse, it could be considered as revenge for them. Glancing at his attribute panel, Lin Yuan's eyes flashed with a cold light. He rushed into the light source again and added 3 more free attribute points to olfactory imaging. After all, the growth of this talent was extremely high. Every time it grew, the detection range would double. Olfactory imaging creates an accurate image of a 32,000-meter range around the body based on smell, can be upgraded, 6 out of 100, After reading the introduction of the skill after adding points, Lin Yuan's heart burned with passion. 32,000 meters was only a corner of the Hengduan Mountains, and it could not even illuminate the entire Stoneclaw Forest. However, in this limited Sumeru world, his 32,000-meter detection range was now enough to cover a quarter of the light source. Within his detection range, all life forms would have nowhere to hide. With a thought, Lin Yuan's killing intent bloomed. At the same time, outside the Hengduan Mountains, the purple-eyed youth, Lei Fan, was leaning against a thick tree trunk, quietly looking at Na Qin, who was standing in front of him. What you mean is that the Black Snake fellow has gone to explore the burial grounds of the Fire Kirin alone. What the hell? I've just gotten on the right track here and it's already dropping the ball on its end? Lei Fan's face gradually darkened. Na Qin looked at Lei Fan expressionlessly and said in a low, muffled voice, "Human, I don't have a good impression of your race. If you had not helped the Black Snake Beast King previously, I would not have specially made a trip here to inform you. The Stoneclaw Forest Beast Kings are changing very quickly, as if there are some demonic beasts surrounding us. Hence, I will not be able to take care of your side in the short term. But you can rest assured that towards the newly built mountain-blocking city, the Stoneclaw Forest will definitely not participate in any offensive operations. The Black Snake Beast King's promise will always be valid." Damn you! Lei Fan forcefully suppressed his anger and did not finish his sentence. Although the Stoneclaw Forest's strength was the best preserved existence in this area, but the new batch of Beast Kings were all ferocious dragons crossing the river. Whether or not they were targeting the Stoneclaw Forest was hard to say, but the demonic Beast King would definitely not allow a new mountain-blocking city to be built. At that time, with the Beast King Kirin's command, with the current mountain-blocking city's defensive capabilities, it would definitely not be able to withstand the next wave of beast hordes. After thinking for a moment, Lei Fan bit his lips and said word by word, "How about this? If the demonic Beast King sends an emissary ordering you to attack mountain-blocking city, help me negotiate. Even if I am still willing to keep the contract of not allowing mountain-blocking city's demon-subduing masters to enter the Hengduan Mountains to hunt, ask them to lift a hand and let me off. Is that all right?" If the Black Snake was in power, not to mention not participating in the attack on mountain-blocking city, even if the emissary of the demonic Beast King came, the Black Snake would not give them any face. Taking advantage of the beast hordes, it could even raid the old homes of the Beast Kings. But if Na Qin was in power, that would be a different matter altogether. Hence, Lei Fan, who had wholeheartedly wanted to achieve some results and be transferred away, had no choice but to swallow this loss and voluntarily give up some benefits in exchange for a period of time at death's door. Even though this was the case, no matter how Lei Fan thought about it, he could not help but feel that he was a thief. It was as if he had been schemed against by the Black Snake again. What a cunning Black Snake! He had already risked his life and future to help it, but in the end, that bastard still insisted on disgusting him at this critical juncture. Exploring the burial grounds of the Fire Kirin on its own, and even handing over the control of the territory to Na Qin, who did not like humans, it was hard to say if this was not the Black Snake's intention. He had gone through so much trouble, and in the end, he was still starting from scratch. This is a chapter with 40 monthly votes. Continue to beg for monthly votes. Chapter 209. Mountain Blocking City is very important to the Shenwu dynasty. Even if the nearby Beast Kings come together, we still have to defend this place to the death. If we light up the smoke signal, the nearest army will arrive within 7 days. As long as we can defend these 7 days, there will be reinforcements arriving one after another. At that time, we will give these demonic beasts a hard time and they will naturally know our determination to rebuild Mountain Blocking City. Commander Li gently picked up a chess piece from the sand table and placed it in the area that represented Mountain Blocking City. Luo Su, whose face was completely destroyed by the inferno flames, gently shook his head and said with a hoarse voice, "First of all, I acknowledge Commander Li's bravery, but your thinking is wrong. All the theoretical knowledge in military books is meaningless in actual combat because even if you know how to use troops, The demonic beasts are not fools. Luo Su's finger gently moved around on the sand table and pointed at the chess pieces that represented him. Recently, the demonic beasts have been extremely hostile to us humans, so we can't enter the Hengduan mountain range. We also don't know the situation inside. Therefore, according to the previous information, there are about 20 demonic beasts that will attack mountain blocking city. Among them, the black snake, white deer, and King Kong are worthy of our attention. Wait. Luo Su's words had yet to fade when Commander Li interrupted him with a cold expression. Why did you not include the cold pool crane? According to my information, the cold pool crane is undoubtedly the strongest demonic beast among the beast kings in the vicinity of mountain blocking city. Could it be that you are certain that the cold pool crane will not participate in this battle? I can answer your question, but before I finish, please don't interrupt me because it's very impolite. Luo Su glanced at Commander Li with displeasure and said in a deep voice, in the previous war that destroyed Zhanshan City, these beast kings participated in the entire process. Commander Li, the cold pool crane that you mentioned earlier had fallen in the previous war. However, the remaining 3 beast kings are very difficult to deal with. Moreover, they have real experience in large-scale battles with us humans. In addition, although the surrounding beast kings are not as difficult to deal with as these 3 beast kings, to be able to dominate the Hengduan mountain range, they naturally have their own strengths. Therefore, if we underestimate them, we will have to pay a heavy price. There's also the reinforcements that Commander Li mentioned. That's another problem. Commander Li is right. If the nearest city to Zhanshan City were to send reinforcements to support us, it would only take 7 days for them to arrive at Zhanshan City. However, have you ever thought about the possibility of the nearby cities not sending reinforcements to us? When his voice fell, Luo Su's pair of bright black eyes flashed with a cold light. How is this possible? Regiment Commander Li was slightly stunned before he angrily rebuked. Do you know that if a border city is attacked, the nearby cities must send reinforcements? This is the iron law of the Shenwu dynasty, and no one can break it. Before the victory is counted, the defeat is counted first. Luo Su smiled contemptuously and said in a deep voice, I'm not saying that the nearby cities disobeyed the order. I'm just saying, what if the demonic beasts attacked mountain blocking city at the same time? Previously, the troops of the nearby cities were stationed outside the ruins of mountain blocking city and only explored the ruins after all the reinforcements arrived. It was true that the border cities helped each other, but they were all cities facing the Hengduan mountain range. It didn't make sense for everyone to risk their lives to help mountain blocking city when it was in trouble, right? It was human nature to preserve their strength. After all, the demonic beasts were attacking mountain blocking city today. If you went to provide reinforcements, the demonic beasts would arrive at your city the next day. Mountain blocking city would not have the strength to support you, so what could you do? This, Regiment Commander Li lowered his head. For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. Although Shen Linjun's reserve regiment was selected from the elites, Luo Su had been the regiment commander of mountain blocking city's garrison legion for 2 generations. Fighting against the demonic beasts had become his daily routine. In terms of experience, he was naturally more outstanding than Regiment Commander Li. The situation he mentioned just now was not likely to happen under normal circumstances. However, if the demonic beast king court ordered the attack on mountain blocking city, then the demonic beast kings nearby would not be the only ones mobilized. Although the demonic beast kings near the border cities would not launch a large-scale attack on the human cities, they would only be holding the line behind the demonic beast tide. From time to time, they would appear in the humans' line of sight and bring great pressure to the other border cities. Moreover, the 7 great empires couldn't say that the demonic beast king court was deliberately provoking an all-out war. After all, the demonic beasts were only holed up in the Hengduan mountain range for safety reasons. No one really restricted the demonic beasts' range of activity. It was just that once they left the Hengduan mountain range, no one could guarantee that the demonic beasts would be able to return safely. Let's talk about the facts. With mountain blocking city's current defensive fortifications, It's simply a pipe dream to defend against the demonic beast tide launched by the demonic beast king court. Personally, I don't recommend to defend to the death. Before the demonic beast tide arrives, we should evacuate a certain distance in advance. If the demonic beasts attack empty air, they will naturally disperse very quickly. The only thing they can do is to destroy the temporary defensive fortifications that we have just built. However, it's just a bunch of construction materials. Luo Su's eyes flickered with wisdom. He sneered and said, "However, this kind of operation is not something that the demonic beast kings can casually launch. Every time they come, they will suffer great losses. Just by rewarding the demonic beasts under their command, they will have to pay a considerable amount of spirit items. When they come a few more times, even if we build mountain blocking city right under their noses, they won't dare to attack us again." This, Regiment Commander Lee's lips opened and closed. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't find anything to refute. After all, the art of war could be summed up in 6 words: fight with force, win with surprise. Although Luo Su's suggestion was a little wretched, no one could deny that Luo Su's suggestion could indeed allow them to effectively reduce their losses. They didn't even need to pay the price of their lives. As long as the demonic beasts attack empty air a few times, they would naturally not fight to the death with them. However, in Shen Linjun's training, there had never been such a method of fighting. Especially when the enemy had yet to enter their territory, they would directly retreat with their men and wait for the enemy to retreat before coming back to rebuild the incomplete or destroyed fortifications. If this matter were to spread back to Shen Linjun, their reserve regiment would most likely be removed from the list of Shen Linjun. As the regiment commander, he would also become a laughingstock in the past. This is the chapter with the full 60 pages plus more. Chapter 210. What kind of person was Luo Su? He was born in the Lei clan and had assisted 2 castellans. Luo Su was able to survive the Battle of Zhanshan City, which proved that Luo Su was a scheming person and was not a kind person. Thus, Regiment Commander Li only hesitated for a moment, but Luo Su had already guessed that Regiment Commander Li had already been convinced by his words. It was just that he didn't agree because of his pride. Luo Su only needed to coax Regiment Commander Li a bit more and he would be able to convince Regiment Commander Li to take his men and retreat first. There's one more thing. Commander Li, you were only calculating the combat power of the entire Zhanshan city. However, you seem to have forgotten that other than the men you brought, the Castellan doesn't have many men. The main force is still those mercenaries and demon slayers who are willing to risk their lives for profit. Commander Li can guarantee that you and your men will not retreat, but can you guarantee that these guys won't retreat? Commander Li, don't forget that 5 years ago, Luoyu City was reduced to a lawless area. Wasn't it because the Demon Slayers Association and the Merchant Guild schemed against us, causing the dynasty to lose a lot of men? That's why the control of Luoyu City was seized. Luo Su's eyes flickered with a faint light. He spoke again and attacked Commander Li's psychological barrier. All right, then we'll retreat first. Commander Li's eyes spat out 2 balls of fire. He gritted his teeth and said, "However, you better remember this. The construction of Zhanshan City must be completed. If you still insist on retreating at the crucial moment, I'll be the first to kill you." The training and education he received in Shen Linjun constantly reminded Commander Li that he had to prioritize the interests of the dynasty. If he led his men to defend Zhanshan City, even if he could defend it, the Demon Slayers Association and the Merchant Guild would fight for power. Even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms, he wouldn't be able to do anything, right? After all, there were precedents like this. The Divine Martial Emperor had been in charge of the dynasty for so many years. Although he had made some achievements from time to time, it didn't mean that his territory had not been seized by the enemy. Some cities were even still autonomous. Even if the Shenwu dynasty wanted to, they were unable to restore their rule over those cities. Don't worry, Commander Li. Although I cherish my life, I'm not afraid of it. If my death is valuable to dynasty, I'll definitely die without regrets. Luo Su cupped his hands at Commander Li, a subtle change in his expression. This kind of one-track-minded hot-blooded youth looked outstanding and hot-blooded, but once they left the training camp, if they couldn't quickly change their mentality, they would soon be killed by all kinds of schemes. Once upon a time, he was also a person like Regiment Commander Lee, but as time passed, all his edges and corners were smoothed out, and he learned to be hypocritical and slick. He looked at Regiment Commander Lee in front of him, as if he was looking at his past self. For some reason, he had the thought of wanting to protect this hot-blooded person. This Lei is not a person who likes to meddle in everything. Both of you are my right-hand men. Since you are of the same opinion, there is no need for this Lei to say more. Sitting on the main seat, Lei Fan slowly opened his mouth and said, Luo Su, you are the one who came up with the plan. You are in charge of formulating the retreat plan, and at the same time, estimate the number of times the demonic beasts will attack. Once we reach a safe place, I want to see your entire plan. Also, Regiment Commander Lee, during this period of time when Luo Su is formulating the plan, don't be idle. First, arrange for the ordinary citizens in the city to bring all the resources and supplies that can be brought away and leave this place first. After that, get the construction team to abandon the buildings that are still under construction and bring the remaining construction materials to the rendezvous point that Luo Su has designated. I will report the operation this time to the higher-ups. Lei Fan was a person who was very decisive. Therefore, he did not plan to slowly discuss it here. Instead, he roughly assigned the tasks, striving to evacuate the majority of the resources before the demonic beasts arrived at Zhanshan City. After that, he had to prepare a suitable report and submit it to the higher-ups. After all, the comprehensive national strength of the Shenwu dynasty was indeed not as good as its predecessor, the 10,000 Sword dynasty. However, their attitude towards outsiders was extremely unyielding. Previously, the city lord of Zhanshan City had his entire family executed just because he sent the three-eyed ape over once. And this time, he did not even have the intention to engage in battle with the demonic beasts, and directly withdrew from this place. Of course, the previous city lord who had his entire family executed did not have any background, so he did not even have the leeway to struggle. However, he was obviously not in existence without a background. With the help of the forces behind him, he would be able to turn the unreasonable into reasonable. It was just that his report this year might be very ugly. After all, according to Luo Su's words, the demonic beast's sudden attack on Zhanshan City was definitely not a problem that could be solved once or twice. If he were to retreat time and time again, it would only cause the Shenwu dynasty's face to fall again and again. When he returned to the imperial capital at the end of the year to report his work, who knew how many people would be waiting to see him make a fool of himself, and who knew how many people would use this opportunity to make things difficult for him? Few. After Luo Su and Leader Li stood up and bid farewell, Lei Fan slowly leaned back on the chair and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He was thinking about when Na Qin's side would be able to establish contact with the demonic beast royal court. After all, although the Beast Lord Kirin had disappeared in recent years, he was still an ambitious and ruthless person who was active in the Tianwu continent. It was impossible for him not to see through the situation. The humans were determined to build a border city near Zhanshan City. Even if they managed to defeat him and his group, the Shenwu dynasty would still send stronger existences over until Zhanshan City was built once again and the sword pointed at the Hengduan mountain range. The sincerity that Lei Fan was willing to show was actually a gamble that Black Snake would be able to control the situation to a certain extent. After all, if Black Snake was unable to control the outer regions of the Hengduan mountain range, the demonic beast royal court would not allow the Shenwu dynasty to break the contract and enter the Hengduan mountain range to hunt. If he was unable to break the contract, he would not be able to give an explanation to the Shenwu dynasty. His own future would most likely end there. He would become the lord of Zhanshan City and then be transferred to a small government office to take up an idle position. After all, the power behind him would never raise a useless person. Jia Luo, get the representatives of the Merchant Association and the Demon Subduing Master Association to come see me. I have something to tell them. Lei Fan gradually recovered from his state of emptiness. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. They are already here. They have been waiting outside the door all this while, waiting for you to summon them. Jia Luo bowed slightly. His figure flashed and disappeared into the void. The next moment, the door of the meeting room was pulled open. Two burly men walked in side by side. They looked at each other and snorted disdainfully. This is a chapter that has 80 monthly votes. Please continue to request for monthly votes, charge up the rankings. The author will continue to write. Chapter 211. Host, Lin Yuan status, sky-piercing black python, transforming into a flood dragon, realm, 16/20th speed, 100 defense, 100 plus 20 attack, 150 demonic power, 607 assignable attribute points, 21 innate skills. 1. Identify enemy's location by smell, unupgradable. 2. Create an accurate image of a 32,000 meter radius by smell, upgradable, 6/100. 3. Monarch of water, your ability to control water has reached a certain level. In front of you, most methods of controlling water flow are so shallow and inferior. As long as you have a thought, you can deprive your opponent of their ability to control water flow at any time. Upgradable, 0/100. 4. Formless ice, your control of the ice element has reached a certain level. You are no longer the little trash that could only freeze water to injure others. The current you, combined with your water-type innate skill, can even freeze water in the air, turning your ice into formless. Upgradable, 0/300. 5. Blood sacrifice wish technique, use your own blood or that of other creatures, can be replaced by attribute points, as a sacrifice to make a wish. The strength of the wish and the quality of the sacrifice will determine whether or not the wish will be fulfilled. Unupgradable. 6. Flood dragon scale armor, when the scale armor is in good condition, can provide the host with a 20% increase in defense. Unupgradable. 6. Pseudo-lawful embodiment of heaven and earth, the ancient holy kings ruled the world because they had reached the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth realm. To cultivators, lawful embodiment of heaven and earth is the foundation of their path. After comprehending this skill, you can control the size of your body at will. The smallest size cannot be smaller than the smallest size of your species, and the largest size cannot exceed your original size. Upgradable, 0/100, martial arts. 1. Golden body secrets, 65/100. 2. Tyrannical singing, unupgradable, skills. 1. Void's embrace, 13/500. 2. Poison of poisoned wine, 220/300. 3. Thorny whip, 31/300. 4. Blood boil technique, 7/100. 5. All things have spirit, can be used to communicate with other creatures. Unupgradable, looking at his status panel, Lin Yuan paused for a moment. He turned around to look at the mountain of corpses and sea of blood behind him. Even though he was used to the darkness and blood of this world, he still felt nauseous. After all, there was a huge difference between looking at a corpse and looking at a mountain of corpses, even if the mountain was created by him. Put. Xie Xinghai smiled and clapped his hands, laughing. Black Snake, you are indeed powerful. You have only been in the underground world for 2 days and you have already turned this place upside down. Unknowingly, the doomed star C looked at Lin Yuan with dread in his eyes. At the same time, his tone was a bit more respectful. After all, they had already come into contact with the Black Serpent when it first entered the light source. At that time, the Black Serpent was only a 4th-level wisdom demonic snake. But 2 days later, the Black Serpent had already become a 6th-level wisdom demonic beast. If it continued to grow at this speed, it would be hard to say just what the upper limit of the Black Serpent was. You flatter me. Lin Yuan nodded lightly. He had already arrived at the middle area where the light source was more intense. Although he was still unable to look directly at the source of the light, he could feel that the fire attribute spirit energy in the air was getting denser and denser. As a cold-blooded animal that was unable to regulate its body temperature, Lin Yuan loved to bask in the sun. However, in this level of fire attribute spirit energy, it could no longer be described as basking in the sun. It should be said that right now Lin Yuan felt like he was being roasted on a fire. Although the discomfort was getting more and more serious, as his strength increased, Lin Yuan's resistance also increased. Therefore, even though the blood in his body was boiling and burning, he was still able to show an indifferent expression on his face. Although this feeling brought him discomfort physically, Lin Yuan was actually cheering in his heart because he was more and more certain that the light source here was coming from the fire Kirin's corpse. He was one step closer to escaping from this damned place. Black Snake, what are you planning to do next? Are you going to continue killing? Condemned Xinghai's gaze fell on Lin Yuan as he licked his dry lips. Even though this black snake had only been here for 2 days, the commotion it had caused wasn't small. Almost the entire light source had been ruthlessly plowed by it. Not a single one of the demonic beasts at the wisdom state level 3 to 5 had been spared. All of them had been slaughtered by this black snake that always started killing for no reason. Sometimes, condemned Xinghai even felt that this black snake might have gone crazy. After all, if it didn't fight and kill for food in this kind of place, wouldn't it be very stupid? However, every time he saw this black snake would be calm in the beginning. It was also very cautious when choosing its opponents. It would never fight a battle that it wasn't confident in. It would avoid being in a situation where it was attacked from both sides. How could this kind of behavior be done by a demonic beast that had lost its mind? This was a massacre that had been planned long ago. Of course, if I don't continue killing, how will I lure that damned thing out? Lin Yuan glanced at condemned Xinghai with a faint smile on his face and said, "Senior Condemned, I told you before that there is a fella that set up an array that devours the lifespan and blood chi of others. The loss of the demonic beast's body and your lifespan is all because this fella used the array to absorb it. This energy was extracted by the array and then went through a complicated refining and purification process. Finally, it turned into pure life energy and injected into that thing's body. If I don't continue killing, how will I attract that thing's attention and make it come out to find me?" This condemned Xinghai was speechless for a moment. He was afraid that if the black snake continued killing, it would soon be his turn. Therefore, he took the opportunity when his strength was enough to suppress the black snake to meet with it. He wanted to make the black snake stop this crazy killing. However, the black snake's theory coincidentally explained what the darkness in the outside world was and also pointed out where his lifespan flowed to. Then, if I destroy this array, will my lifespan be able to? Condemned Xinghai's voice was trembling. There was no one who didn't wish to live for a longer period of time, especially someone like condemned Xinghai who should have been able to live for 800 years. However, he hadn't even lived for 100 years, and his body had already entered the state of Heaven Man 5 decay. At most, he would die in 10 years. Lin Yuan didn't doubt that if he could help condemned Xinghai get back his lifespan, this human Emperor Sun would definitely be grateful to him in a short period of time. Unfortunately, Lin Yuan shook his head. Helplessness flashed across his heterochromatic eyes as he said, "Senior Condemned, it is not that I don't want to help you get back your lifespan. However, I am still not very familiar with this array. I only know how it works. If it was just extracted not long ago, you might be able to get back your lifespan by destroying the array. But if it has already been absorbed by the other party, then even if you peel off its skin and break its bones, it will still be useless." This is the extra chapter for the monthly ticket of 100 chapters. Are there any more? Chapter 212. Sigh. Jiao Xinghai sighed helplessly and said, "I know, but it's better to be able to recover a portion of it. Tell me, how should I help you?" After knowing that he couldn't recover all of his lifespan, Jiao Xinghai's face revealed a helpless expression. "Senior, you only need to watch. If this junior manages to draw out the hidden ghost, please contact those Heavenly Dipper Realm experts that you are on good terms with to quickly rush over and kill it. As long as this fellow is killed, although this formation will continue to operate, the energy will lose its target and accumulate together. At that time, the formation will naturally collapse, and the lifespan that was sucked away by Senior will return to Senior's body. Also, the thing that is blocking the exit is an endless darkness. As long as the formation is broken, the black fog that is devouring your lifespan will naturally disperse. At that time, we will be able to leave this place. Lin Yuan still had an expressionless look on his face, and answered in a dull voice. The matter about the formation was true. Theoretically speaking, the purified life energy would not be poured into the body of the initial target, but would continue to accumulate in the formation until the entire formation collapsed. Then, the life energy would wander between heaven and earth, looking for things that were compatible with itself and fusing with them. And the life that was infused with the life energy would obtain great benefits. So theoretically speaking, Jiao Xinghai's lifespan could indeed return to his body. The prerequisite was that after the fire Kirin's body was destroyed, Jiao Xinghai could survive in the life-devouring black fog for a long time. After all, the life essence wouldn't enter a corpse. The reason why Lin Yuan wasted time talking to Jiao Xinghai was because he indeed needed them to deal with the fire Kirin's remnant soul. However, he didn't expect that these existences that were struggling at death's door would be able to deal with the fire Kirin's remnant soul. After all, the other party had a natural advantage. Even if it couldn't win against so many experts and used the light source as a threat, even if these people didn't help it deal with Lin Yuan, they would still stop and watch the situation develop. However, the reason why he was willing to talk to Jiao Xinghai was to give face to those Heaven Dipper Realm and Mountain Lord Realm existences that still maintained their rationality. He said that he would only touch Intelligence Realm monsters, and as long as they didn't care, everyone would be able to sleep well. As for how long this period of time was, it was up to each person to understand. Of course. Jiao Xinghai laughed. Black Snake should have some common sense in the adult world, right? Although Doomed Xinghai was considered a relatively young Heaven Dipper Realm expert among cultivators, he was also a person who had lived for dozens of years. He had long passed the hot-blooded age. Not to mention that he didn't have any relationship with Black Snake. Even if he did, he would hide behind the scenes and observe the existence that was lured out. He wanted to see if he could deal with it. In any case, they were all seeking to live. If they really couldn't resist, they might as well die a little later. What if there were other opportunities in the future? The man and the snake looked at each other and smiled. Their eyes shone brightly, but their expressions did not show the slightest bit of hypocrisy. Wait! The smile on Yu Xinghai's face suddenly stopped, and he stared at Lin Yuan with a burning gaze, saying in a deep voice, "Black Snake, you are the only one who is not affected by the devouring array here, so why are you the one who is most anxious to get out? Also, isn't your speed of improvement a little too fast? Could it be that you are that damned thing that is hiding in the dark and wants to bait us so that you can defeat us one by one?" Lin Yuan didn't know how to answer, but he also couldn't deny that Jiao Xinghai's thoughts were reasonable. As Jiao Xinghai's voice fell, a few divine senses landed on him. It was obvious that Jiao Xinghai had this suspicion for a long time. He came today to test Lin Yuan, and even his helpers were lying in ambush. The moment Lin Yuan revealed anything, these people would rush in and kill him. "Senior Jiao, recently there have been a few demonic beasts outside. If I didn't remember wrongly, you also got Lu Bai to capture them to your side, right? Firstly, it was to see if it was my problem or if the darkness outside had lost the ability to devour your life force. Secondly, it was to get information about me from these demonic beasts, right? Interesting. Senior Jiao, look around. Do you know where this place is? This is a Sumeru world. If one isn't in the desolate demon realm, it is impossible to break through the void and locate the Sumeru world. Adding on this array, even the myriad sword imperial court might not be able to make something like this, right? I am honored that Senior Jiao thinks so highly of me, a little wisdom realm demonic beast. However, Senior Jiao should have heard about me. After all, I am not a nameless demonic beast. Although the Stone Claw Forest's Beast King cannot be compared to the Beast Imperial Court's big shots, in the outer regions of the Hengduan mountain range, I have a little bit of fame. Lin Yuan's attitude was very arrogant, and he looked like he had nothing to fear. Firstly, what he said was the truth, And he was not afraid of these fellows trying to pry information out from the mouths of the demonic beasts. Secondly, because of the temperamental nature of Death Star C, the moment he showed any signs of fear or did not answer, this old fogey might just directly kill him. Lin Yuan was definitely not Jiao Xinghai's opponent now, and it was hard to say if he could escape unscathed. Not to mention that there was a group of experts lying in ambush. At Jiao Xinghai's level, the helpers he called over would definitely not be at the Wisdom Realm or Airborne Realm. At the very least, they would not be weaker than him. Hee, Black Snake Beast King, your name is indeed like thunder. Jiao Xinghai's attitude changed, and his face became amiable again. He only wanted to trick this black snake. After all, according to the demonic beasts from the outside world, this black snake was not easy to deal with. Even Beast King Kirin didn't dare to casually destroy an entire human city, but this black snake did it, and the Shenwu dynasty didn't dare to take revenge. This was enough to show how extraordinary this black snake was. If it was scared by him, it could only mean that this black snake was pretending to be like this, and had ulterior motives. In addition, when he heard that a city of the Shenwu dynasty was razed to the ground by demonic beasts, Jiao Xinghai felt very happy, as if he had drunk a large bottle of ice-cold honey during the hottest days of the year. If Senior Jiao doesn't have anything else, I will go and rest first. There are still many things waiting for me to do. Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes didn't have the slightest ripple. The moment Jiao Xinghai laughed, the pressure on his body suddenly disappeared, as if it had never appeared. Chapter 213. These guys have already sensed that something is wrong. Does that mean that the remnant soul of the fire Kirin has also discovered me? Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly and glanced at the source of light in the distance. A hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. To the fire Kirin, this Sumeru world was a farm where it could harvest life energy at any time. He had killed the monsters in the periphery. Although overall, the life energy provided by these monsters combined might not be as much as the life energy provided by a master, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. The fire Kirin kept capturing monsters and humans from the outside world to this place because its life energy was not enough to break through the barrier between life and death and allow it, who had already died, to return to this world. This behavior continued until it turned this area into the infamous ghost realm of the Hengduan Mountains. However, it was still thinking of ways to create ghosts, like Hua Sanyang, to trick more prey for itself. This was very reasonable. After all, life and death were reincarnations. Even the existence of the wild demon realm would have an end to its lifespan. Unless one could transcend the rules of this world, immortality was just a joke. In order to break the reincarnation between life and death, even if one had the means to do so, one must pay a sufficient price. Lin Yuan wantonly killed monsters in the light source and turned them into attribute points for himself. This could be considered as snatching food. After all, after the demon beasts fought each other, even if a part of their flesh was eaten, the remaining bones would be devoured by the black mist outside and turned into tiny wisps of weak life energy for the fire Qilin. However, the system had already refined the life energy of the monsters killed by Lin Yuan into attribute points. Even if the black fog devoured them, the fire Kirin would not benefit at all. After all, the devouring formation set up by the fire Kirin was just a joke in the eyes of the system. Lin Yuan was a little nervous. He stayed in the same place for about 10 minutes, but nothing unusual happened. Lin Yuan was not sure whether the remnant soul of the fire Kirin had not discovered him or was afraid of him, so it did not appear rashly. This is not the right attitude. Even if you are afraid of me, you should at least appear in front of me and open a path for me to leave this place. I can promise that we will not interfere in each other's business in the future. I can pretend that nothing happened these past few days. Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes swayed from side to side as he asked tentatively. Unfortunately, there was still no response. The fire Kirin was like a turtle that had retreated into its shell. No matter how the rain and wind blew outside, it did not move it. Lin Yuan had no other choice but to go to the Kirins he had already chosen. He had come here for the fire Kirin in the first place. Whether it was the life energy stored by the Kirin formation here or the materials on the fire Kirin's corpse, Lin Yuan was very interested in them. Therefore, even if the fire Kirin's remnant soul had sent him to the spatial node, Lin Yuan would not have any thoughts of leaving. He only wanted to test the strength of the fire Kirin's remnant soul. If the Kirin was really afraid of him, then some of his subsequent plans could be changed slightly, and he should be able to leave this place much earlier. After all, this was an existence that could be mentioned in the same breath as the Beast Lord Kirin when it was alive. Even if only a strand of its remnant soul was left after its death, it was still not to be underestimated. Even if it only had 1/10 of its strength left, it would still be enough to give Lin Yuan a hard time. However, the fire Kirin refused to appear, nor did it give Lin Yuan a chance to test its strength. It did not even want to communicate with him, directly leaving him here to fend for himself. As such, he could only continue killing. At the same time, about 1,500 meters above Lin Yuan, an eye that looked like a burning flame slowly opened. Every formation master had to have more than 90% control over their own formations. Therefore, ever since Lin Yuan entered the Sumeru world, he had been under the surveillance of the fire Kirin's remnant soul. However, Lin Yuan's existence was beyond the fire Kirin's knowledge, so it did not dare to show itself in front of Lin Yuan. Coupled with Lin Yuan's previous actions, it was obvious that he knew what the formation here was, and also knew who was behind the scenes. He just did not directly reveal it to the public. However, fear was fear. In the end, the fire Kirin did not treat Lin Yuan as an equal opponent. It had obtained this formation by chance when it was alive, and once it was deployed, it had always been successful. It had never seen any life form that could withstand the devouring power of this formation, but this black snake was unharmed. Originally, the fire Kirin was just a little curious, but after Lin Yuan started killing, its attitude slowly began to change. This black snake was definitely an incomparably terrifying existence. As the controller of the formation, it could clearly sense that a large amount of energy in the bodies of the monsters killed by the black snake was directly harvested by some strange power and then entered the black snake's body. Moreover, this energy seemed to be instantly transformed and refined into something that the black snake could use. In just 2 days, the black snake's cultivation had increased by 2 whole levels. With the fire Kirin's knowledge, it naturally reacted quickly. This black snake had definitely mastered some kind of devouring method that was even more powerful than its own. It was also because of this method that the devouring formation it had set up was unable to do anything to the black snake. If the fire Kirin's remnant soul had just awakened, it might have let the black snake go, thinking that it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. At most, it would have warned it to keep its mouth shut. However, the area where it was buried had become a ghost town. The monsters of the Hengduan mountain range regarded this place as a forbidden area. The Shenwu dynasty, which had been repeatedly damaged in the Stoneclaw Forest and even destroyed Jianshan City, was even more jittery. Recently, no demon slayer dared to enter the Hengduan mountain range. After all, no one knew where the demonized Fong Tian would go, or when the next monster tide would erupt. With Jianshan City as an example, no one dared to act rashly. Even in places that weren't affected by the incident at Jianshan City, the frequency of demon slayers entering the Hengduan mountain range to hunt had been greatly reduced. After all, although the 7 dynasties of the human race didn't get along well with each other, they had always shared information about monsters. Therefore, the appearance of a monster king that dared to destroy a human city and wasn't afraid of human retaliation was an extremely dangerous signal. Thus, when the fire Qilin sensed the black snake harvesting the other party's energy, it had some thoughts. If the conversion rate of the fire Qilin's devouring method was 1:1, then the conversion rate of the black snake's devouring method was 1:10. It was many times better than this devouring array. If it could obtain the black snake's devouring method, it could improve the devouring inscription in this formation. Even if it couldn't catch any new prey, it might be able to revive after absorbing the remaining monsters. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.